We're live, yeah. We're live, guys. Gotta mute that. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. I forgot to mute the video for the feed. But yeah, I hope everyone's having an awesome evening tonight. We got some really great guests coming on. Namely, we got Troy Austin, who is a pretty famous for doing radio. He's also done some great things with. He could probably tell you all about it, but he's done some things with designing those little waving guys in the dealerships. You know that you see the blow up guys. Is that right, Troy?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, that's kind of where they ended up, and they gained a lot more popularity back when in their heyday, when they were being used for some of the biggest events like the Super Bowl, like the World Cup, the Grammys, the Olympics, Miss America and stuff. So yeah, certainly, you'll find them a lot at car dealerships. But yeah, they've been used for a number of pretty big things that are have a little bit more impressive applications.
Awesome. Hey, I got to tell you, it's an awesome honor to have you, and as well as the rest of you here tonight. We got Tom DigitalScribe with us. He's got his channel. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how you doing? How's everybody doing out there?
Hey, Tom.
We're doing great.
Doing good, Bob.
Corey's back with us, and we got Ty. Ty is my history guy. I wanted to talk, and we also have Teresa Lynch here with us. We're going to have some other guests come on at different times. Namely, Changing Matrix is going to be here around 10:30 p.m. Eastern. But some real important calendar dates this week. December 3rd, 1992, 25 years ago, the first text message that ever went out was, guess what? Merry Christmas. So that one text message is 25. We have yesterday, December 7th. Turns out it was Pearl Harbor Day. So commemorate the veterans for that. And today is actually December 8th, 1980 was when John Lennon passed away. And now Todd, let's talk about that for a minute. How did John Lennon pass away?
John Lennon was shot by a deranged fan. John Hinckley, I think it was. Was it John Hinckley?
Yeah, John Hinckley was the one assassinated.
John Hinckley, yeah,
Hinckley
was
actually
assassinated outside I think Hinckley was Reagan, wasn't it?
I think Hinckley was Reagan, yes.
Yeah.
It was a jealousy issue.
Yep.
Hinckley was Reagan in 81. Jodie Foster, right? And
yeah, that's it.
And John Lennon's fan was Mark David Chapman. That's who it was.
That's who it was, right?
December 8th, 1980. And he was killed outside the Dakota Apartments in New York City after he signed an autograph for him and then killed him.
Wow,
all right.
Gotta be worth the money.
Well, you guys, I want to tell you guys, you guys are open for chat. This is open table night, guys. Because I want to talk more about the Beatles and the Silver Beatles, because that's interesting to a lot of people. I asked my dad earlier today as we were eating Chinese food earlier, and he said he doesn't remember the Silver Beatles ever. So, and what were the Beatles originally called?
The Beatles.
No,
does someone have music on?
No, I don't. In 1956, I think they were called the, what was it? I can't think of it right now. It's something like a quarry or something.
The Quarrymen.
The Quarrymen.
Yeah, the Quarrymen. That's exactly what it is. Yep. It was the Quarrymen.
Yeah. Before the Beatles, where it was the Quarrymen with Pete Best.
Yeah, it's kind of wild because they were called the Quarrymen, and they actually had the original members that were part of the Quarrymen, which I was going to mention as well. Is that from what I recall, they also had the fifth Beatle. That was kind of a big deal. Pete Best is that guy who was supposedly the drummer of the Beatles for a little bit, but it's kind of bizarre. From the Quarrymen, they had all the original members. So when did this fifth Beatle guy ever kind of fit in?
Right. Well, it was rumored that Pete Best wanted. He was married and he was older. He didn't really fit in. That's what they told us. But Pete Best has said, no, I was a very good-looking guy, and they just didn't like the competition, etc. But it was one of those things. But Pete Best actually existed, obviously.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah, I got a big kick out of the John Lennon, Yoko Ono, and May Pang thing that was that's been going around here recently. That was one thing that really kind of got me because of John Lennon and Yoko's relationship, man, and that was all love.
Right. I mean, they had their problems, but it was definitely mutual respect and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, but to have Yoko Ono go ahead and arrange this relationship and John's parading her all out and about now. No. That just man, that didn't happen.
May Ping is the other Japanese girl who was maybe 15 years younger than John.
Yeah, it was about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was really something. She was hot even by today's standards.
Oh, without a doubt. Yep.
Okay. She was hot. She was hot in a black and white picture. She was hot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's how. And I'm not one of those guys that go, "Oh, she's hot." No, she definitely. This is definitely something. It was so the problem with May Ping was the fact that in the articles, in the interviews that I saw, not only did Yoko know about it, but Yoko encouraged it. She almost ordered it because May Ping worked for her and John, and it was told that Yoko encouraged John to go that direction.
Yeah, that's the odd thing about that is that, I mean, she still remained married to him while he was, having this relationship, very intimate relationship with her. And guess what? That's just okay back then.
Right. And it was not a short fling. It was an intimate relationship. And she even referred to herself as John's mistress. And she was okay with it, which even by the 70s free love standards, which would have been outrageous, there would have been a public backlash. You wouldn't believe. At least I think there would have been, because there's no way. No, in my opinion, I don't have. I agree. Memory of that whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. That's very strange.
True. I think. Yep. So there's another Emmy for you guys that I had seen too, Troy. Just a few days ago, I saw it.
Stack it on the deck.
So Ty, you're a history guy.
No, that's what he's calling me. He thinks I know a lot of things regarding history.
Well, we had a discussion, Brian and I, we kind of touched a little bit on it. It was one of these things where I was just wondering, man, I'm like, well, there's all these different changes. I wonder if anything has occurred with the Hindenburg. We might as well get into that because that was something that was, well, I guess what kind of got me even thinking about that is that my son, he's a YouTuber and he does these game reviews and whatnot. And he recently picked up that World War II video game and he plays it quite a bit. Now, in some of the scenes, they have some actual footage of what looks to be actual footage from like World War II. And you'll see off the coast where they actually have the Zeppelins off the coast. And that kind of rattled me for a bit. I'm like, well, maybe it's just a video game. They put it in there for whatever reason. And then I did a little bit of homework. And you'll see actual footage of Zeppelins hanging off the coast of like Normandy. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? That doesn't make any sense.
Troy, do you have music on?
No, I don't have any music on.
Okay, something's coming through with feedback on this end.
Yeah, there's a little bit of feedback, guys.
There's feedback coming through on bass.
Oh, I don't have any music on. I don't know if it's is it gone now? Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
No, I got nothing on.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, so anyhow, so I just decided to do a little bit more research on that, and I'm looking up some of the the history, the rare videos that are now showing things that were never shown before. I've never seen some of these video clips that now have emerged, and off the coast of Normandy, you can see a whole fleet of these things all flying off the coast. I'm going, how is this even possible, man? Especially after the Hindenburg exploded. Why would they bring these things? These are like giant bombs up in the sky. That doesn't make any sense.
After the Hindenburg, they brought them all to a fleeting halt.
Exactly. So, but apparently they had a whole fleet of these things just hovering out there in the water, during the wartime, I guess.
What are we living in? A Fringe episode? Is that what we're living in? The Hindenburgs were around.
Yeah. Well, and then I decided to actually see the footage of the Hindenburg itself. And they actually started like up in the sky with some really good footage that I've never seen before, like planes like taking pictures of the descent, and they're narrating it. And if you recall, I'm sure like you probably have heard of this too. There was a broadcaster who was actually, he was kind of narrating this whole thing when the thing started going down, and it was a really scratchy video. It wasn't that clear. And, when it exploded, he was, it was a dreadful tone in his voice saying, "Oh, the humanity." And it was really just devastating, the tone.
Was it still by supposedly a crack of lightning? A lightning strike?
It wasn't very clear of exactly what happened. And, but that's what I'm assuming. I didn't get that deep into it. But if you look at the photo, or rather the video, it's a completely different footage, man. I mean, they're releasing, the water ballasts, and they're going for a landing. They're dropping tether lines, which I've never seen before, and then they land, or it goes into like a crash landing. But then there's people that are fleeing. There's a whole bunch of people that are making their way. They're running away, and the people that supposedly had died are now alive. They live. So like a lot of the people.
That's definitely different. From my reality, from my memory, no, you guys' might be different. From my memory, from my reality, the video clip was always the same, much like the JFK video, but this one is a lot more concise. The highlight of this video is not just the burning Hindenburg, but also, this is from my memory, the announcer, again echoing, "Oh, the humanity." He is in utter shock and disbelief at what he's seeing, because the whole Hindenburg is destroyed in seconds. It's there. It catches on fire, and it's completely engulfed, and everyone is dead. There might be
everyone died.
Two survivors off on the camera's edge that were holding the lines. Maybe we're hoping, but it looked like everyone perished. That's what it looked like.
Well, I've seen that video a number of times. I mean, I would say I've probably seen it in my lifetime at least a dozen times. I remember the Hindenburg actually took a nosedive. It was the nose first, and then, the whole thing kind of collapsed slowly, as it just was all being engulfed by flames. In this particular footage, now it's the rear end of it that actually is setting down first. And you'll see the little cabin where all the people were in. That goes ahead and it settles down, and that's when you see all the people booking it for their life, and you see a bunch of people, man, and people are jumping from this thing too. It was bizarre. I've never seen that before.
That would be horrific. Can you see them surviving as they're running?
Yeah, you can see them. It's great footage. Yes, if you haven't seen it, it's amazing. Yeah, it really is. Yep.
That would be almost the equivalent. That would be almost the equivalent of Jack Ruby shooting Lee Harvey Oswald and missing.
Right, exactly. Well, and you probably know about that too. Even the Jack Ruby shooting, that's all different now too.
I wasn't aware of that.
That footage is now completely different from what you remember.
Oh yeah, I seen the footage, and it's like. It went into HD or something like that. It's retarded. Like
it is.
The whole clip of it is like totally different.
Oh, it was a different angle. That's what you're saying. It was a different angle. Yes, I do.
Different angle, different. Yeah, it was different. Like the whole thing was just weird.
Can you guys see this?
Oh, here we go. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
And this is the actual Hindenburg strike?
Yeah, this is it. This is the Hindenburg right here, Bob. Watch this.
Yeah, we never saw this. We never saw this. No, we never saw this. No.
Okay, check it out, guys. This is where it gets fun.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Prepare to wake up. How do we live? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
I can't see.
Look at the
anything,
back end. They're losing the video.
We lost the video feed, Brian. You got to redo it because we didn't have the screen for your viewers.
I'll try it again.
Oh, it's kind of flashing in and out. But
all right, let me share the screen. Okay.
There we go.
Go back up a little bit here.
Yeah. Thank you.
There we go.
Watch as it drops the water balance. It does it twice.
You guys know I got slammed for copyright for sharing like a 2-minute clip, I think, or maybe a minute clip of Ronald Reagan's assassination.
No, that's wild. See, watch it as it drops the lines. It drops the tether lines too. You'll see it.
Oh no, that wasn't there. What?
Nope, it never was.
Oh, that is amazing.
Well, maybe they got more people out of there in time.
Yeah, and you'll see it's wild. Here we go. See how the back end sets down? Look underneath the carriage. Watch as it hits. And now pay attention to all the people. You'll see the people booking it. You'll see as it focuses in. Now watch really closely. You'll see a bunch of people booking it. Look, look, look. Here they come.
Whoa.
Watch, watch, watch. Here they come. They're running. They're running. See all the people? They're running fast. You see little dots. See them? There's a bunch of people running out of there.
That's crazy. Now my question is Led Zeppelin changed now because this has changed?
Man, I don't know. You know, it's another fun little adventure to explore, huh?
Well, the angle of Led Zeppelin, you understand, the angle of Led Zeppelin, is it not? The angle of Led Zeppelin?
Ooh, that's interesting. Ooh,
because the angle of Led Zeppelin
crazy.
was the Hindenburg.
Yep.
That's what it was. I mean, am I correct? The angle?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe Brian, you got to pull that up. We'll check that out as we're getting into some other fun stuff here.
Because that is, unless I'm mistaken, I believe that was. Unless I'm mistaken, was that Zeppelin 1?
Oh, man, you know that's a good question. I don't remember, to be honest with you. I used to have all the albums too, man. But
everybody did.
Yeah, but I don't remember. Yeah, I think I just had them around because they were cool at the time, but I didn't really. You know, it's kind of like you get a record. You're not expecting things to change. You expect to have them all around. You know.
Oh, how about buying a Stairway to Heaven?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
How'd you remember? Was it building or buying?
You know what? The day I cash in my check says the day that Leif Garrett is part of KISS. That's all I want to say. There you go. Okay, there you go. The day Leif Garrett was part of KISS. I'm done.
Oh, I know it, man. Okay, so Brian, now you can see why I was confused after this whole video that I saw. I'm like, well, hold on just a second. You know, they're gonna have all these flying bombs. I don't know if you can pull up some footage of like Normandy D-Day somewhere, but you'll see off the coast, you'll see all these Zeppelins that are hanging out there, and I'm thinking, what? There's no way they have all these things. These are like giant, like, you know, again, they're like giant bombs. That'd be stupid to have these things out there.
When did you become aware of the Hindenburg effect?
You know,
Out of curiosity.
It's one of these things that you know, my son, he's a video gamer, and you know, it caught my attention. I'm like, well, he was doing the reviews and whatnot. I saw some of the footage that he had on his game, and I saw the Zeppelins out there in the distance. I'm like, wait a second, they didn't have those out there. No way, they didn't have those. I know that.
Would you say that this is a month ago?
Oh yeah, probably about it was when the game was first released, so maybe about a month and a half. It was very recent, very recent.
See, we are of the opinion that since you're new to the effect somewhat, we're of the opinion that the effect, the Mandela effect, the quantum effect, is never changing. It changes.
Oh, for sure.
So when you check something, there's what's known as the flop. But we still come across something like this, which is definitely brand new. I've never seen this before that Brian's shown. Never.
Yeah.
They've never had that many Zeppelins.
Brand new.
Yeah, they never had that many Zeppelins coming up.
No, they did not. So that right there was alarming for sure. In that right there kind of led me to.
That would have changed the course of the war right there.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and that was that. Well, that's why when I saw that, I'm like, well, I wonder about the Hindenburg. You know, so that's when I decided to take a look at the Hindenburg and went, oh my God, this is not how it was at all. I remember that, and that wasn't like that. I tell you that for a fact. I know that. Sure. You know, and so that was a horrific thing that happened. And for what I remember, and I'm pretty good at this. I mean, you're in a hydrogen, blimp that's going up in flames, man, and that was pretty high up, man. Nobody lived. Everybody died. And now there's a whole gamut of people that lived.
That freaks me out. I mean, that freaks me out that people are running out.
That was the reason why we don't use hydrogen balloons anymore.
Exactly right.
We use something else now. It's still pretty bad. Don't get me wrong, they are, but we don't use them very much.
Absolutely. So that was just one of the more recent things that I kind of stumbled across. And of course, I'm like relearning all this history now, so it's like, okay, well, what is this all about? So I never know where I'm going to go. It's just things pop in my head. I'm like, I might as well go ahead and check that out. And then when I stumble, across something that's truly bizarre, I'm like, whoa, I've been watching. I'm sure everyone, or at least a lot of people, know of Lone Eagle. Lone Eagle, he's got a pretty cool perspective on the guy on this whole thing. So he was talking a bit about the military and like the new tech, and you'll see like the footage now is like it goes all the way back into like World War I, and like some of the camera footage, like even from the Civil War, is just it's unbelievable.
We were the inflatable tanks too, and the inflatable weapons.
And see, that's why. Yeah. Go ahead, bud.
Me and Brian were being slammed. I don't know if you saw this, Brian. I wouldn't call it slam, but we were being questioned as to the dates of the videos that we were commenting on and the cameras that we were commenting on.
Right.
And I thought, well, that would be the only explanation, if any. But no one caught it on, of course, on Eagles at all. No one caught it on Eagles at all about the date. I was just taking what he was saying, and it looked to be legitimate. And one of the things that we noticed, besides the technology, besides the shutter speed, besides the camera angles, which were incredible, by the way. We've never seen camera angles like that before. And aside from the people's reaction to having a camera, those cameras had to be either extremely small or invisible because they weren't reacting to the camera at all. What was your take on that?
I'm glad you said that, man, because what, back in the old days, man, you remember a lot of the photographs, the people had to be very still, so their expressions were always kind of like, they just didn't have a smile. No one smiled. Everyone was just really they just had this, really serious look on their face. Mm-hmm. And, I know that they had to hold still for a long period of time, but now seeing some of the footage, these people are having a great time. Everyone's having the best time. And so that was, kind of interesting to see. It's, you mentioned like the technology is like the ISOs and perfecting that kind of technology. Well, I know that, I've seen a lot of, I look at a lot of old pictures, the Civil War stuff that it's intriguing to me. I'm interested in that kind of stuff. So,
you're looking at them. I'm guessing that you were looking at them through microfiche in time past. That's
right.
What you're talking about. Microfiche. Right. And this is beyond. This is beyond microfiche. And I was trying to explain to Brian and the viewers of the video that we did that there's no way that you can clean that up as cleanly as they're showing it. There's no way.
I'm
not a photographer, but there's no way. You can't clean that up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the Jack Ruby or when he got shot there, it was like almost like the picture was fuzzy and then it went HD on.
Yep. And given, look, now in this day and age, you can clean up a lot of stuff, man. But these are things that are done before the cleanup. You can add contrast and all that. I get it, but overall, the photographs themselves are not even close to what they were. They were super grainy. They didn't have that kind of that clarity. They just didn't.
Right. And if you got a grainy photograph, you can clean it up, but you're not going to clean it up to that extent. And again, Brian and I were commenting that this is motion photography. How in the world did they get motion photography? And this is not a 30-second still or 30-second picture, or excuse me, a 5-second motion picture like they did from the 20s, the old dance routine that they would do when they would take a quick 5-second, 20-second motion picture of it.
Right.
These looks to be advertisements for a town, a city, a celebration.
Absolutely.
What's going on? And
absolutely.
Like one, but I don't know if you saw it, Troy. The one where they are actually showing a blizzard in the downtown.
Oh, and, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Why? Well, I said, of course you would bring out a camera that does motion pictures out to the snow. Of course, because everybody knows that cameras are so weather resilient, especially in 1890 something. Sure, take it out to the snow and see what we can capture.
I know, man.
Said nobody ever.
But see, and that's what's comical about that too. I mean, I find myself just laughing so hard, despite the fact that it's super alarming. You're like, wait a second, this is just not the way it was. And, and I'll be watching these things, even on my break, and I'll just go into absolute eruption of laughter, and people are looking at me like I'm insane. It must look like I'm insane, but this is not what I remember at all. It's just so ridiculous,
Right, sure.
That you have to.
I did see, however, the first Kodak camera when me and Brian looked it up, and we saw online. It said it was being offered, I believe, Brian, for $25. Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah. If that's
right. And the nearest approximation that I could make for inflation for $25 was all the way to 1913. Was the earliest approximation I could make to inflation. And $25 would be the equivalent of about $500.
Wow! So you got to have you got to have some capital.
Yeah, a lot of money. You're not going to take a $500, and this isn't even a motion camera. This was a simple still camera, the first one from Kodak, using 100 exposure film, which of course everybody knows they had that in 1890 or whatever year it was.
Sure. Yeah, now they do.
Which I had no memory of them ever having. But it's okay. That's all right.
Well, that being said, and so that's kind of cool. So that's pretty much what I've been doing is, essentially just researching all different, areas that, that I remember, and even things that I've dabbled around in a lot of different things. As I said before, I know a little about a lot of things. I mean, I just, that's kind of what I do. I like to, just learn about whatever. So in case I'm having a conversation with whatever, at least I'll have some kind of relation to that. I can, at least maybe add my 2 cents at the very least. But, there was another thing that got me recently, and I forget exactly where I heard it. It was Francis Scott Key. That guy, man. That guy has been made a superstar now, man. And I'll tell you, I know this guy pretty well, and they made this guy into, the savior, the guy that was, he was a lawyer that made the trade deal to release some of the people that were held captive in the British ships off the coast of Fort Henry. This guy was not that. He was not that at all. In fact, from my memory, and I remember this pretty well, Francis Scott Key was a prisoner. This guy was held as a prisoner, and he wrote the Star Spangled Banner in his cell. He was actually he was captive. He wasn't the guy that was like called out, some hero to make some trade deal between the British. No, it didn't happen like that at all. In fact, he was looking out of his prison wall or his window, I guess, and seeing all the explosions as they were being attacking the British fort or wherever he was being held. And that's when he started writing the lyrics, and that's how I remember it all coming about. But nowadays, oh no, he was over there. He was called out. He went out on a ship to meet with the head honcho over there in the British prisoner ship, and to make this trade. And, and they said, well, fine, we'll do, this is going to go down, but it's not going to go down until you actually set down that take down the flag. You have to remove the American flag that's been, flying outside of or inside of the fort. Well, they refused to do it. So they bombed the heck out of this thing, man. They were hitting this thing with everything they had, and the flag was still standing. And guess when it was all said and done, the patriotic message was, Yeah, the bombs hit the flag so many times, but every time it fell, a new person grabbed the flag and jumped on this pile of bodies, and kept the thing flying. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool, man. But that's not at all how it happened at all. I guarantee you, that's not how it happened. He's not that much of a hero.
Okay, I just want to shout out quick to the live chat people because they're chatting and it's great that they're there. I just want to say
Absolutely.
Ray and Long Reach One, Melissa Clark, Lost Boy, Barry White. Thanks for chatting it up.
Definitely. What about Raleigh said something about Oregon? The bombing of Oregon killed 6 people. The Japanese bomb.
Yep, apparently. They sure
Yeah,
did.
that
sure did.
That was a new one. They flew.
Brian,
they
Brian,
flew
can you hear me?
into, Oregon and dropped these.
Can you put up the chat on the side of your bar again?
May 5th, 1945, 6 were killed in Oregon by a Japanese bomb. How many people remember that?
It didn't happen. There's no memory.
No, that was not me. I found that out a while ago.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Absolutely not.
I'm sure as time goes on, we're going to find some new changes of history. I really believe World War I is, especially Statue of Liberty. That Statue of Liberty is like a Mandela magnet,
Oh yeah, for sure.
So maybe we want to keep our eyes on that and check it, just like the Home Depot logo or something, or Ford logo keeps changing,
Yeah, no kidding, man.
I mean, it's amazing. Like these logos get revisited. Like the Kit Kat, everybody remember it having a dash and then was gone, but now like the letter T has this like hook on it. So that's another new one that hit that a while ago too.
I guess all the T's are now making that curve, huh?
Yeah, yes. That's a universal Mandela hit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very rare to see a lowercase t as a symbol of a cross,
Yeah, yep. Very rare nowadays.
But what's so weird is after you look at it so long for that, now when you see the T that it used to be, it almost looks alien. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's the craziest thing. I mean, all you gotta wait is give it time. When the next generation who's already been acclimated to this change, and they always think that's the way it is.
Yep.
So, Troy, is your take on this retrocausality? Is that what you're looking at? Is something as when you're explaining something from that far back in time and referring to the photographs with the cameras and of course the number of cars that you saw? I mean, to see that many cars in the photos, that Lone Eagle, is it Lone Eagle? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Eagle.
Right.
To see that many cars in the photograph lining up, people don't seem to understand that those are white elephants lining up one right after another.
Yeah.
Have that many cars in one place at one time, very expensive and so very rare.
Yeah, that definitely was a shock. Even
lining up.
Just looking even further back, what kind of got me was, I looked into that as well. Looking at some of the first vehicles that were released, as far back as 1834, and of course, I know that many people dabbled around in it, but look, man, they weren't, that's not what I remember, and I'll tell you, I'm certain that there was other things, but not back as far as 1834, number one. Number two, not electric, man. They weren't electric cars zooming around, and now everybody has them. It's
right.
like,
I didn't hit the nail on the head when I was talking with Brian. Brian and I were talking, doing a video. Completely missed was the age. Correct me if I'm wrong, Troy, but that was the age of steam.
Yeah,
they were making steam-powered vehicles at the time, and they had a bunch of Dr. Seuss-looking vehicles.
Man, I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys seen the first Porsche that was ever released. That thing's, I mean, that's like the old days chick magnet, and that was like the electric car, the superstar car of the time, and it's that thing. Look, man, it wasn't there. I mean, of course, in this timeline, it is obviously, but. Yeah. Man, it wasn't there. Come on.
So as far as the evolution goes, is your theory, of course, because you have to. I mean, you have to allow for something. What is your ideology? What are your thoughts concerning it? Is it something where you're thinking that they're going that far back to allow for greater technology?
Man, I've got.
What I'm thinking is the butterfly effect. You understand?
My brain is. My brain is swooning, man.
Yes,
Ty, I got a great idea. It seems like the more we progress today, like technology is exponentially growing, like AI. Then I think what we're going to see is the technology going to be retroactively more advanced. So therefore, we're more advanced now. In other words, the more we get advanced now, the more it's going to be advanced back then.
I hear what you're saying, but what that's saying now is that suddenly, if I could draw a perfect circle, when you go back to my kindergarten, etchings when I was in kindergarten, all of a sudden that stuff's going to be great. I don't think so. Once the Hindenburg, once the Hindenburg went down like that, it's not going to change, and it did. There's got to be more to it. This is more than the Mandela effect. Must be more than what we think it is. If it's changing the past, this is a butterfly effect in the future that's affecting the past. Something's happening.
Well, there's a video that's out there about the seven, way the reality works. Probably put it up there. It's by the Quantum Gravity Research Institute, and they said there's 7 clues of what reality is, and one of them is like the cause and effect, causality loops. That's it. So the future affects the past as well. I hear
what you're saying, but I want to put this into effect in some way that I don't meet my first wife. That would be wonderful.
No, I'd like to throw in here in a sense where we all seen the movie The Butterfly Effect, and does time travel have something to do with this, or because
you got to look at time.
If something's happening, is it changing what's going on now? That's what what I mean.
That's correct. Yes, Seeker, that's right. Are they changing the past in hopes to alter the future? I don't think we're looking. Yeah, exactly. So I think we're dealing with something else. We're not. The Mandela effect might not be what we think it is.
Yeah.
No, it's not time travel, but it's all. You got to look at time, because time is actually. This is a hard concept to realize, but it's more of a spatial dimension, because we're sequencing through time like in steps, like a CPU sequencing data from moment to moment, every clock pulse of the cycle, and that's how reality works.
Yeah, but that's
through frame by frame.
Tom, I hear what you're saying, and I can understand what you're saying, but that is not how time works. I understand what it is. That might very be the way that time is viewed now through a quantum understanding, but that is certainly not how time works. As I understood time to be for time and eternity all my life, its time very much was another dimension. Time is just exactly that. We go through time. We are time travelers from birth to death. We go through time. We are the time travelers. I woke up this morning. I had a point of view looking into this afternoon. I went through this afternoon. Now that has passed. Now I'm into this evening. I am a time traveler. I traverse time.
Right. You're going forward. You're going forward in time sequentially in one direction, but that's because we're in this dimension. But if you look at God's perspective, all time exists all the time. In other words, the eternal past, the eternal future exist all the time, just like the present we're experiencing now. That's how God, that's the reason why God's in all places, all the time. He's in all the time, at the same time.
Yes, that's good if we're reading a book, but in practicality, that does not mean that something that I learned historically from 1937 is now different.
Well, then the 1937 thing, that can easily change because it's a wave of probability. I'm not talking about parallel universes. I'm talking about, we got to look at the double slit experiment at the probability. Like, that was another probability that could have happened. So then it got flipped over, where now the particle is no longer at this location. Now it's being observed at this other location.
Yes.
It kind of makes sense when you get these changes.
Yes,
it's a probability that now it's happened and becomes
reality. Okay.
I do hear what you're saying. I really do.
Okay, I just want to put on my butterfly effect thing was that maybe like someone put up on the chat room about why is there residue? Well, I think it's an echo effect. That's my own thought.
Well, the consciousness shields the Mandela effect to a certain degree. That's the reason why all this stuff that's residue is from people remembering the way it was then, and they wrote it down. But the reason why it didn't get flipped over, because it was kind of shielded by their consciousness. Like when you write down scripture by hand, you're not totally like copying it. You're kind of using your consciousness to write it down from memory, and that doesn't get changed. But if you like a document or a Word document or whatever, that's going to get changed because it was evolved by consciousness, conscious thought. That's the reason why they say that affects your reality. That's the reason why when you walk in faith, you believe, or positive think or whatever, it's consciousness affecting it.
No, but I'm like I was saying, I think that where we are,
Good night, Raleigh.
where we are, there's an echo effect that we know what our reality was, but the other people don't see the effects. You know what I mean?
They don't. Well, and I think with that, everybody, we're all like playing a simulation video game. So if we're not in the same frame in some quantum state, we're not seeing everything the same. That's the reason why like, some people see other people seeing building Stairway to Heaven, and for each case, you're convinced that they play, but yet you see the change that they do. There's a lot of change, a lot of flexibility. It comes down to this. It comes down anything possible can happen. Anything can happen.
Well, it's again. This is nice if you were reading a book. I did hear what you had to say, Tom, and I've heard the same stuff too. But one of the problems that I had with the Mandela effect, in fact, probably one of the biggest problems that Troy had too, is that you're left with the problem. Either the world changed or I changed. And it's much easier to see that I changed, not the world. Perhaps I changed. The world has always been this way. I alone am within the quantum effect.
Yep.
Maybe I am in the Mandela effect. Maybe it's me. I changed. And when you get into the reason why I say this is because our physical changes to our body, the rib cage, the bones behind the eyes, obviously I had to change. I wasn't always that way. And if I changed, now we're in trouble because my memories would be from another time and I'm the one who changed. My consciousness had changed. Now that goes into a whole bunch of new age stuff, but that's where I'm at with it. Something changed.
Nailed it. That's exactly what I was thinking as well. I mean, okay, AI is possible changing a lot of things, digitally from what I would imagine. But the moment you start messing with changing like the actual physical structure, the anatomy, animals, I mean, that's something else, man. That's so that's what, my thoughts are as well. So I think it's definitely something more supernatural. AI may have something to do with it, with certain things. Maybe it's a conglomeration of all these different things at one point in time. So it's just absolutely confusing, and trying to pinpoint it is nearly impossible. I mean, we can only speculate of what the true thing is, but yeah.
Right. Guardian Matrix, Brian, Guardian Matrix in the chat, Feminine in the chat, and H Diesel in the chat. I'll have statements, I'll have questions, just to let you know.
All right.
But basically, everything comes down, if you want to look universal thing, everything's information, no matter if it's real estate, body, location, history, it all comes down to one thing. It's all information. And that's the reason why the simulated reality, whatever you can call that, is such a big, convincing fact.
Right, except for the fact, here's the problem I have with what you just said, Tom. Like I have Bibles, and the Bibles have changed. They're hard copy, and they changed. How could the AI change my hard copy? So it can't be. That throws out the idea.
Because the hard copy, the hard copy, any matter or energy, it's what it is, but it's all information. Whether you body, the geography, or gravity, or light, it's all information. It really is. So to change some more supernatural healing, miracles, anything, it all comes down to information. And the only thing that interacts with that information is our consciousness.
Okay, and that in itself, you may be unaware of that, but that in of itself is a Norman Vincent Peale.
Right.
However,
and I understand that. I'm talking about New Age and mind control and all that. But when you get down to your perception of reality is through your five senses. And why did Jesus make such a big deal about faith? I mean, you've seen all these supernatural miracles, and he referred to faith. And if you have faith as grain of mustard seed, is that not just the same thing? You're actually using your intellect, your mind, your spirit, your whatever. You're still the same thing mechanically.
No, I don't believe so. I believe that premise is wrong, and I don't want to get into it. I do believe that.
Hey, I'll tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing. Before I got saved, I controlled a storm one time. I just, I was like, I got up and I saw I could control the storm. I had my friend and his two other friends, and I commanded it for like 10 minutes. I did everything I said. Then afterwards, I got spooked out and got paranoid. But and I heard things where people actually commanded things and stuff like that. It really is your consciousness affecting with the reality. Now, obviously, it doesn't happen for everybody, but how about the Iceman, the man who could sit in a tub of ice for 2 hours and not affect hypothermia? He could go up Mount Everest with his shorts and come down. No guys are like freezing to death. I mean, that goes beyond the natural realm. That's what I'm saying. You're tapping in to, you're going beyond the laws of physics. What we understand to be.
Troy, have you found out? I hear what you're saying, Tom. Absolutely.
And I got to jump. I have to go. But guys, okay. You've been awesome, and I'll talk to you guys later. Right?
All right, guys.
Jump.
Take care.
You guys are all.
Yeah, see you later, Tom.
Thanks for having me on there. Okay. Bye-bye.
Well, I'm with you, Ty.
The thing is that I like Tom. Tom's great. Tom's great. And his points, I will take his points, and I don't want to dissect it because I'm not going to rip it apart because obviously I'm a Christian too, obviously. But the problem is that if I stared at an algebraic problem when I was in 8th grade, I'm looking at the board. It didn't matter. That problem didn't care when I'm looking at it at the blackboard. That problem didn't care how I thought about it. That problem didn't care how I thought about it. It didn't care how I related to it. It didn't matter my opinion. It didn't matter. I couldn't change anything. I either knew the answer or I didn't.
That's it.
So that's the problem. So but I do understand what Tom's saying.
You can't change your own reality.
Yes, but obviously it has been, and that's a problem, Seeker. That's a problem. It has been changed.
No. I mean, in the sense that you can't physically or mentally change your reality. Like, that's what I think. Like, a little bit.
Well, if that's the case too, that means that all. So essentially, we all wanted to change our reality, and this is what we get. We all did this,
we got superpowers or something, or
right? Man, if I did this, man, I'd wish myself back to where I was, man. We don't, we didn't ask for this. We're just kind of, we just got caught up in this whole thing. So, Right. And now we're realizing, but yet there's more people that that don't see it, and of course, if we try to point it out to a lot of these people, boy, the reaction is something pretty, pretty bizarre.
Yeah, we're all cuckoo or something,
Yeah. Oh man.
Making this stuff up or something,
And that's just it, man. You got to control that because you got to choose your audience of where to really kind of broach these issues, or if you see somebody, obviously for me, I certainly want to, see if I can find somebody else, maybe wake them up. And, if it wasn't for a friend of mine, in fact, Brian, you actually had him on your show, Rigo, Regato. He was on your show, and he and I, we talked quite a bit. You know, one thing that you know, he and I, after talking, you know, many hours about was, you know, the distance between each one of us. You know, it's like even our own families that we once knew, these people that we grew up, friends as well. They're not the same. You know, and now the people that do see it, they're so far apart. So almost like we can't, like, you know, the only way that we can communicate is from, like, you know, like these hangouts and, you know, the forums and whatnot, but you don't have that closeness like you would, you know, like, or at least like we used to have with the people that we used to know and that we grew up and loved. They become someone different. And then when I do mention this to them too, they shut down.
They see you as a different person too.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And I wonder, I'm like, well, who the hell was I before I was this guy? Because everything was all good before I started mentioning this, man. You know,
right.
and they're not seeing it, but yet now they think that I'm cuckoo as well. And I'm going, wait a second here. How could you not see this? This is so obvious. And there's so many, you know, like let's just throw this out too. Let's go back to John F. Kennedy really quick. This is a really big one for me as well, because here you have, you know, at least in my reality, okay, we all know that at least I know he was in that 4-seater. I know that, okay, and now it's in a 6-seater. But yet in a museum, there's a 4-seater with John Kennedy and yeah, exactly, and Jackie, and they're sitting there in a 2-seater, but no one's paying attention to that. Okay, don't look at that. And meanwhile, let's even go a little bit further. They did the reenactment of the shooting, and they drove the route, and they're driving it in a 4-seater, but no one says, look, why are they driving a 4-seater there? Don't look at that. Don't look at that.
Right.
Don't look at that. Don't worry about that. It's a 6-seater. Don't worry. And now the new theories, like Jackie is now the person that did it too. It's like, come on, man.
Oh no, right, sure. Yeah, that definitely.
Yeah.
And obviously, what I need to say is that obviously there needs to be more funding for museums and reenactments to afford a 6-seater instead of a 4-seater.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Obviously, it was a 4-seater. But I wanted to interrupt you, Troy, because Changing Matrix joined us. And,
cool. Hey, what's up, buddy?
And I'm sure Brian wants to introduce Changing Matrix.
Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Brian, you there?
Yeah.
Hi.
You just fine. Good to have you.
Good to be here. Just trying to see who's on and get caught up with what you're talking about.
Hey, how you doing?
Just loving history,
How are you?
loving the Lord. That's all.
How are you? You know, it's hard to. I almost didn't recognize you without you being in your car.
I know. I'm notorious. That's like the only time I got to think, to talk, to do anything. So it just worked out that way. So I know, not the safest. I got tons of emails. What are you doing? But it's that or nothing, I guess.
Well, it's great to have you here. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's always nice to see some real people too. Trust me.
Yeah. April, how long we've been emailing back and forth, try to get you to come on here? How long has it been?
Probably 8 months, I would say. Probably close to 8 months. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
the last couple months, well, you know, if you thought I was going through a really crazy time back and forth before, the last couple months have been a pretty difficult time as well. But I don't know if I told you, but I'm back in Florida again, and I'm staying. I've kind of just decided whatever's going to happen, I'm not going to be afraid of anything anymore. I'm going to do what I need to do. And now that I've figured almost everything out, I'm not really that fearful anyway. So it's good to at least be back in warm weather.
Definitely. Yeah, I think I posted on Facebook earlier, like, you know, you Northerners got to deal with it pretty hard, you know, with all the snow. My kids are playing in snow right now.
Yeah, I just got off the phone with someone in Tennessee, and I guess they got like 3 inches there. So I'm not jealous of that.
Yeah, they had
I'm not going to say nothing because I'm from Canada, and we got we're skiing, and there's big slides and everything. So.
Wow.
Well, I know what it's like. I'm originally from Michigan, and I remember that big snowstorm of 77, 78, whatever that huge snowstorm was. It's just that I've been out of it for so long. I just really prefer warm weather, like everybody.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I was down there with you.
It's pretty nice right now. I'm sweating right now, actually. Yeah.
Oh, quit bragging. No, I'm kidding. I'm right over there by you. So. Yeah. So how is it? What's on your mind, April? Because I know you always have a lot to say. What's on your mind with the Mandela?
Oh my gosh, a ton. And it's probably a good thing that I ended up getting pretty level on how I'm viewing things now instead of really freaking out about things, because I don't know if you all watched or watch Mandela Effect's videos, but he came out with a video with Scott Harrison last week that absolutely is now my #1 top unbelievable Mandela Effect. And if I wouldn't be so calm right now, that literally would have pushed me right over the edge.
I missed that one. What was it?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Do you remember, and really probably not a lot of people are going to remember unless they really remember their science classes or Earth history or something. Yeah. But given that I've got a pretty good science background and I remember a lot of really weird things, like the formula for kinetic energy is equal to half its mass multiplied by the velocity squared. I just remember weird things. So I know in wherever I came from, you know how the air you breathe, inhale, exhale, atmospheric oxygen. Do you remember about what percentage of gas was the predominant gas in the air that you breathe? Anybody?
Well,
like, is it helium that you're breathing? Is it argon that you're breathing? What do you breathe?
Hydrogen, was it?
Yeah, I thought it was hydrogen as well. Hydrogen, oxygen.
It was like 82 to 86% oxygen. Then there was it was like nitrogen was anywhere from 6 to 11%. Then there was a lot of trace gases. Well, anyway, I like watching Mandela Effect's videos because they really approach a lot of things from a scientific viewpoint that really resonate with me. And they've noticed a lot of the physics that are wrong on this timeline. Well, anyway, he was with Scott Harrison and he was talking about this huge Mandela effect blows everything out of the water. And it had to do with the air that we breathe and what was the predominant gas. And although I couldn't remember to the 10th of a percentage point what I remember it was, I remembered pretty close. So I thought, unless he's going to say something that's way off, well, then it's probably not going to be that big a deal. But he said that they weren't even done researching it yet, but it was so big that they wanted to put the video out there. And what he said, I thought, surely they've got to be wrong, or they just consulted one resource and maybe they were talking about dry oxygen percentage or whatever. But it's not oxygen anymore, supposedly. And I went to 4 university websites and 2 meteorological agencies, and they all said the same thing. We are breathing almost 80% nitrogen on this timeline. It is absolutely blowing my mind.
Yeah, I seen the same video about the nitrogen. That's why I mentioned it. I
didn't hear you mention it before. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah. That they said that nitrogen was one of the biggest percentage of this planet now, and it's retarded.
Well, it is, and I thought, okay, because I know how this all works by now, and I thought, all right, well, if this is a brand new change, there ought to still be some residual evidence. If I go really quickly and Google things, why their video is playing, I thought, okay, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go look at some dive shop websites and look at their dive tanks, see if they're saying they're oxygen or they're nitrogen now. Because if you remember, divers used to get nitrogen narcosis or the bends if they got a little bit too much nitrogen in their blood. And now, so you're telling me it's okay to have 80%? and that's not going to be a problem.
We all got the bends, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
That's crazy.
I know.
That's
So
new
then
to me,
I thought,
too.
okay, well, how are you going to explain? You know, there used to be like exceptions, and you used to be able to explain things in terms of exceptions. Like we're oxygen fixing organisms, like a lot of plants and things, and bacteria.
April, when you looked it up, what did the scuba diver
It said
thing say?
nitrogen. It said nitrogen. So it wasn't a recent change. So apparently we just found out late. So, but you remember when they talk about things like even alfalfa sprouts being nitrogen fixing organisms. Well, the reason they're pointed out like that is because those were the exception. It's oxygen. Everything is oxygen.
They were called nitrates. Is what they were called, nitrates?
Well, not the nitrates. No, organisms that are nitrogen fixing organisms, meaning they use nitrogen in their electron transport chain as the end product, whereas we use oxygen like most bacteria, most organisms, most animals, except for not here now. I don't get it.
Maybe that explains why our lungs shrunk. Maybe the lungs don't need as much oxygen anymore.
I was thinking that's why probably a lot of us had trouble breathing and respiratory problems for sure.
I did, especially back in October, and sometimes it still feels like there's tremendous pressure on the chest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
Major shift onto the body. Actually, two of them. I think we noted the chin button. Many people are noticing this weird chin button now. But I noticed the jaw. There's like a crevice in the jawbone now. If you look on the Google Images, I don't know if it's real.
What's our atmospheric pressure at? Do you know?
I remember the formula.
It's supposed to be at 7, right? Our atmospheric pressure should be at 7, right? True atmospheric pressure.
Well, it would depend on your elevation, would depend on the temperature, would depend on a lot of things.
At the sea level and in the Northeast, that's what I'm saying. I'm looking it up right now to see maybe if that changed. 14.7. 14.7 does not sound right, guys. I'm sorry. 14.7
I don't remember.
per square inch. I remember it. Brian, I think I remember it being 7, not 14.7. But it's a stretch. It's been a long time since I read about that. But that would go into your theory, April, for sure.
Or is it is it like HG? Is it HG or KPA?
No, this is 14.7 pounds per square inch.
Pounds per square inch, PSI, yeah.
Yes, that would be your standard sea level pressure by definition. 14.7 pounds per square inch.
I don't know if you guys noticed earlier, and I know Changing Matrix just joined us. There is actually, I noticed the shoulder blades seem smaller.
Shoulder blades were a big one to me too. Well, there was a lot of the anatomy was not good for me. Yeah.
It was pointed out to me. I'm not trying to kick anyone, I swear, but look at the lips. There is now this softer, shinier line, this border around the lips now that we have. That was pointed out to me by Melissa. And if we go,
tell me about that again, Brian. Tell me about that again. On your own face, you're saying right underneath your lip.
Brian,
no, really. I noticed this today. Today.
Keep showing your
right
lips.
under your lips.
Keep pointing at your lips, Brian.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
Look. I had images here. Hold on. Okay, look. So now apparently we don't. We have natural lip gloss on our lips. That's what it seems like.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You can kind of see it.
That sounds like Teresa. Is Teresa with us?
Yeah, Teresa.
Yeah, Teresa's like a ghost. She just talks. It's great. Teresa, are you with us? Yes, I am with you. Okay.
I don't know. Weird. It's like I'm trying to find an image without lipstick on it, so you can see.
When the AI does come around, we'll just be used to it because we've been talking to Teresa all this time.
Wouldn't the lip gloss companies go out of business or what?
Right.
Yeah, it's going to put all these lip balm companies out of business now. Nobody wants to buy my lip balm.
Right. Well, of course.
Chapstick is screwed.
The humanity, the lip gloss companies. What are we going to do?
It was the more crispier edge, like an edge on the lips. Now, let me tell you something else, okay? Now, I asked my dentist. Volcano. That's good.
Right. That's in the dictionary.
You guys, okay? You've seen it enough times. And now this is related to the lips because my dentist said here at the bottom have to do with the nerves that go to the lower lips, and these here in the middle have to do with the upper lip. It's if you didn't have these holes here, in other words, you wouldn't have hardly any feeling in your lips. Isn't that weird?
What from
all your face? I call Mandela Effect immediately.
Yeah,
I think it's a Mandela.
I don't think so. Yeah, those are four because that's four corners on your face, and everybody would know.
Yeah,
everybody would know immediately.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find something here about the jawbone. You guys see this, right? Do you remember the jawbone coming all the way down to here with this crevice? I don't. Do you remember that?
I remember the foramen, the holes for the nerves, because I used to be in dentistry, but I don't remember that angle of the jaw looking like that at all. No.
No,
I don't remember.
Your jaw would be very, very difficult to break. That's like a very thick jaw. Would you agree?
Shoulder blade.
Oh yeah, we have a tank for a skull, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That got me when I learned that the back of the skull actually folds under, and now there's like a little porthole for your spinal cord to go up into. I was like, what? That was never like that.
That explains why. That explains, of course, why in the first, the original 3 Rocky movies, that the trainer always yells, "Headbutt him, Rock! Headbutt him!" Yeah. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that.
Well, and you know. And I'm sure that in a few of those Rocky movies, when the Rambo movies, you know, when they snuck up behind somebody and they jabbed a knife in the back of their head and they killed them like that, you know, that's not possible anymore. So I want to see how that changed.
It's like me. It's like me being up in Canada. I slip on the ice and I can't break my tailbone anymore.
Yeah. And no more kidney shots too. You know, I know a lot of people.
Where the kidney shots? Yeah, no kidney.
Yeah. Right. Yep. No more peeing out blood. That's impossible.
Look at those rib cage. How that is connected. Look at that. That's I call that battle armor. There's no way it was ever like that. No way.
Yep. Well, and we know biblically, look, you know, you remember, like, you know, Adam and Eve, you know, they took that's how they explained, like, the man having one less rib, you know, gave the rib, you know, and created Eve. So now we both have exactly the same, like, rib cage. So what's going on with that?
Now it's an advertisement for MMA style fighting, of course. That's what it is. Look, you can do it. Joey, look at your body. You can do this. You're fine. Look at it.
Oh yeah.
That's what it's like.
I'm wondering where are the protruding shoulder blades? You don't see them protruding anymore.
And I've asked.
Find Clarissa Flockhart and see if it happens.
I've asked my doctors. I've asked.
She's an anorexic actress.
People, and they won't say anything about it.
Yeah, either they don't know about it or they think you're crazy.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Either way.
Hey, I'm probably going to get way off topic here really quick, but you know, actually, I was talking to Regato a little while ago, and he also mentioned or wanted me to mention what's going on over there in Jerusalem with Trump. Anybody have any thoughts about Jerusalem now being the new capital of Israel?
Well, it's not the new capital of Israel. The Mandela effect to me is that Tel Aviv was always the capital of Israel. It was always the capital of Israel. I understand that they're saying that Jerusalem was the capital and we didn't recognize Jerusalem as the capital because we recognized Israel as a country in 1948, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily recognize the capital that is putting the embassy there. until 1995 under Bill Clinton. And that was the law, and that Trump is just following the law because that was the law from Bill Clinton. And every later president just didn't enforce the law, and Trump is just enforcing the law and making it acknowledging the capital of Israel being Jerusalem. The Mandela effect to me is I never knew Jerusalem was the capital of Israel. To me, it was always Tel Aviv. But I'm not a geological guy where, you know, but as many times as I've talked about Israel and seen Israel and read about Israel, I never came across Jerusalem being the true capital of Israel. Never. I never have. I was always Tel Aviv. To me.
Yeah.
Well, the bottom line in the bigger picture is that everything is unfolding according to plan and right on schedule without, you know, getting into the discussion details.
I was about to say that, April. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I think too. I think we're getting back on the path that we should be for things to happen the way that they should. What do you think, April?
Well, I think it depends on what interpretation those who are affected are deriving from this experience. Because what I've come to believe in really doing a lot of research in the scripture, the whole story is in there about what has happened to us and what is happening to all people and in what order and what's going to happen. And to anybody who's been affected and has gone through some of those pre-Mandela activities or experiences, and then, of course, seeing and knowing what we're knowing, everything is pretty transparent as far as what happened, where we are, and what it's about. But unfortunately, there's such a big push right now for the people who are going with the interdimensional theories, what the interdimensionals are saying, people that are, you know, listening to the Pleiadians and the Archons and, you know, it's natural ascension and all this stuff. No, and people really need to do their homework and give due diligence to deciding what theory they're going with, because there's a purpose. And if they don't get it by the time we're supposed to be out of where we are, which is in the mystery land of Basra, if you read the Bible, pretty ingenious the way God has done things. And I noticed that when I really started getting into the Bible, most of the people that I met, because never in my life before this, not once, had I ever talked about God, Jesus, religion with anybody publicly. Never even came up. If I'm Christian, am I what religion? Nothing. But when we were taken from here, it says in Micah, all these chapters, numerous, that we got taken at the Revelation 12 sign, the woman with the 12, you know, stars for a crown, clothed with the sun, moon at her feet, put on a great, you know, eagle with great wings and carried off to the mystery land of Basra for our protection against the dragon and for nourishment, meaning spiritual nourishment. Now, everybody who went had to pass into the sheepfold, which is what Basra literally means, under the shepherd's staff, meaning we actually already underwent judgment when we entered that sheepfold. Now, probably some of us had a little more refining to undergo than others, which is probably why our explanations of our experiences differ from person to person. But Basra itself, it is a real place in modern day Jordan. It's the land of the Edomites, Edom, which are Esau's descendants. And if you remember the story about Jacob and Esau, when Rebecca was pregnant with the twins, the boys were really quarreling, fighting in the womb so bad that Rebecca even asked God, why is this happening to me? God's reply to her was that there are two peoples in your womb, that are going to be separate. One older is going to serve the younger, one stronger than the other, that are going to play a pivotal role in the end days. Now, if you remember Jacob and Esau, Esau's descendants are the Edomites, land of Edom, end time day scenario. That's where God's going to, Messiah is going to come back, touch down, Mount of Olives, with all of these, which are us, who are here, but spiritually we're there. And it explains everything. For instance, every one of us who notices the anatomy changes, and we notice them as pretty profound, like the eyes and the bones in the back of the eyes, never there. I didn't take a teaching job at a university because I had found out that week and saw pictures. Didn't trust myself to teach in a school of pharmacy because what else don't I know? It was a big deal. Well, if we're getting put in this place of Basra for our protection against the dragon and for our spiritual nourishment, because the dragon is crouched at the woman Revelation 12 sign, just happened September 23rd. What better way to hide us as these people than to put us here where we are now among Edomites in the land of Edom? And that's why a lot of us interpret this timeline as being a lot darker, a lot not nicer, a lot more evil, because Esau was a godless man. God didn't love Esau. God hated Esau. And those are the people that we're with right now. Well, if he's hiding us so the dragon can't identify us and find us because he wants to devour us, what better way than to make us, you've heard of the term wolf in sheep's clothing, right?
Yeah, those are the false prophets.
The wolf in sheep's clothing, that's like Satan putting on, whatever. Well, we're the opposite. We are sheep in wolf's clothing. So we've adopted the anatomy, physiology of everybody who's here. So we fit in, we can't be identified, but we're not of here. And I'm telling you, the whole thing is in the Bible. There's so much in there. I've been trying to finish.
I hear what you're saying. I do. And I do hear what you're saying. I'm following along with what you're saying. And I especially liked in the beginning when you basically said what I tell people, same thing.
Because those people who are only about CERN or only about, any other thing other than understanding this is a God and end of day situation. And if they're making it into anything else and they don't get it, it says right there in the Bible as well. Not everybody who enters under the staff, there are rebellious, belligerent, prideful people that aren't going to get it. And they're not going to be going with the Messiah back down at the end of the 3.5 years to touch down with him at the Mount of Olives. They're going to be cast someplace else.
I do hear what you're saying, and I have listened to quite a bit, and it is interesting. It is interesting because obviously you saw a problem with this Mandela effect in the beginning. I'm sure you were awake for a very I'm sorry, my camera isn't even on. I'm sorry. You were awake for a very, not sleeping well for a very long time, trying to find this stuff out. My thing was that there had to be a catalyst. There has to be a reason why we see what we see, that we're being affected the way that we're affected.
Well, and I don't think it's necessarily from our own choice, our own volition. I mean, I was not doing anything at the time. I think one of the biggest mistakes general population people make assumptions about us is when they hear, about some of us that went through a dark time, a hard time, confusing time, they treat it like a everyday run-of-the-mill situation. Oh, there's another person who was undergoing a difficult time in life and they turn to God and that's what this is. No, God was not my first choice in looking for explanations for this. And I was fine at the time this all started. I wasn't having a hard time. I was making $130,000 a year, had, business stuff going, having a great time. And then things slowly, I just noticed more and more and more. Well, so if people would realize this is God's choice due to out of God's will, God's plan. None of us know what that is. None of us know why we were chosen. But I do believe it all stems and goes back to, you know, he does know before we're here in our mother's womb who we're going to be, what we're going to do, what choices we're going to make. And we've got a job here to do. And it wasn't my first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice. I went through every theory and every related possibility more thoroughly than any normal person would, because it was just so crazy what I was seeing in the dynamics with my family, just undescribable, really, really crazy, and still is. Absolutely. So once I got it, things, you know, the peace came back, the connection came back, and the messages or direction that I started to get came much, much quicker. And, you know, I know just like you do, we're getting closer on time and we don't have a lot of time. And I'm really worried about so many people that are going to be making the wrong interpretation about what this is. Because those that do know that there's no second chances, you know, after this. And we are, you know, at the most important times ever. So it's yeah.
The only
I
thing
know I talk a lot.
That way too.
No, that's okay. You're doing just fine. You're doing just fine. We really appreciate you. Brian, of course, can't speak any more highly of you than he has.
Thanks, Brian.
We really enjoy having you here, and you have a unique perspective. The closest that I came, without stepping on people's toes, is I said there has to be a reason why we're here. As you said, you don't know the reason. Said that maybe, perhaps the reason is that the changes are going to be so great that we will be the ones to recognize the changes and be telling them, look, this isn't right. This isn't right. Yeah. As I pointed out to Brian, you know, the people in New Zealand, the people in Australia, they're not aware of the changes. South America is not aware that they have moved so far east. They're not aware.
A lot of people in a lot of countries are very aware. Oh, yeah. It's not
certainly not enough to go, hey, we've moved. No, they don't. It's like us here. We know that.
I don't know. Looking at my YouTube analytics, here's an interesting thing, and I wasn't going to talk about this until I had my video out where I could show it. But if you look at, because like probably 150 countries are on my YouTube analytics from people who have been watching my channel. Now, the top 8 countries, top 8, are perfectly correlated in order with the top 8 countries where Jacob's descendants are. And those are those of us who have been rounded up, reassembled, regathered, the stars and the 12 crown. We don't know who our ancestors are. We don't know how we're spiritually or physically descendants of Jacob, Esau's brother, and that's what this is all about. Perfectly correlated. Where are Jacob's descendants? What countries are they living in now, current day? In order, top 8 countries, perfect parallel with what's on my YouTube.
Are you drawing a parallel between Jacob's descendants to the end times, and you're saying that these would be the tribe of Israel?
What I'm saying is God said way in the beginning, and here's the whole thing that I didn't even get in the beginning. Like I had read the whole Bible from cover to cover once when I was in my late 20s. And I was a little bit surprised, you know, early this year when I started talking to some other people about Bible and Bible study. Everybody only seemed to be focusing or reading on the New Testament. And I didn't understand that, because to me, everything was important, Old Testament and New Testament. And what I found was the reason we're supposed to be looking at both and knowing both, everybody has this misconception in religion, in Christianity when they're younger, that there's this divide, that we're separate and different from the Jewish people. If you remember, you know, the 2 branches of the olive tree, the Gentiles being grafted in, the ultimate goal of God in the end day is to have one unified house of quote unquote Israel. So that means anybody who is, believes that Jesus died on them, died in 3 days. So that means faithful Jews, Jesus believing Jews, and Christian who were Gentile. That's what Israel is, spiritual Israel.
So just ask your question, since you said that, who is the bride of Christ?
The woman, the church. Okay, I'll back up a little bit.
I'm asking the bride of Christ. How does the bride of Christ?
The true believers in the church, who are also the woman in the Revelation 12 sign, and the stars in the crown are the tribes of Jacob. Now, supposedly, according to the Bible, what's supposed to happen is that God in the end days is going to reassemble all Jacob's descendants who were scattered throughout all the nations and lands. And people are sealed and taken and put in the place of safety. And then after 3.5 years, which is at the midpoint of, traditional tribulation, then that's when the Messiah and all of us, or, Jacob's descendants, come back. And then at that time, the Jews undergo a judgment. But it's our role that we're supposed to be witnessing and testifying, because there's only a small, and this is a payback, supposedly, if you read the Bible away, to be paying back the Jews for their God of Abraham, which is our God, to get them to believe and wake up, because by the time he touches foot down again, the percentage is supposed to go from a really minuscule Jesus believing proportion of Jews to this really big number. And then he'll be here, then the Jews will get judged, then there will be a time, and then there will be a judgment of the sheep and goats, the white stone throne. And that's where all the Gentile nations will then be judged. And then there will be, 1,000-year millennium, and then the final battle. And then we're in the totally new Alpha again.
April, I have a question for you. I went to Bible school when I was younger, but I was never a church-going person.
Most of us were not. I mean, most of us at least haven't been for the last, 5, 10, 20 years. That's the number one characteristic we all share. We've all lost faith or left the churches because of, corruption and all that. We all share that.
No, so why are we all seeing the changes?
Because I believe we are spiritually Jacob's descendants, and we are being regathered, and we've got a purpose and a mission, and that is to have this end day revival to when we get it, because, do you remember, and it's all about, you remember Jacob's trouble and Jacob's ladder to heaven? This is Jacob's trouble. We're in trouble. And what this is, same thing story, everything in the Old Testament is played out in the New Testament. So if you understand what the story is in the Old Testament, you'll understand what's coming in the New Testament. So we're all undergoing this time of Jacob's trouble. And what that means is, again, back to Jacob and Esau in the original story. Esau was Abraham, everybody knows who Abraham is, right? He's the biggest pinnacle spiritual man of faith. God loved him tremendously for his righteousness and faith, so much that he's revered by Jews, by Muslims, and Christians alike. Abraham was a great man. God made a covenant with Abraham, 3 parts: for land, for descendants, including kings and nations, and for blessing and redemption, not just for his self, but all the people and the families who would populate the earth through him. So then that was renewed with his son Isaac, And then it was renewed again with Isaac's son, Jacob, of Jacob and Esau. Now, Esau should have got the birthright and the blessings, being the older, but God knew and saw him as this wild, full of powerful lusts, physical hunter.
He was known as a wild man.
Yeah, hunter, and didn't really care so much for the spiritual birthright that he was going to receive. So much that when he came home one day from hunting, he was really hungry, and he traded his birthright to his brother for a hot bowl of stew. So
he sold his birthright.
He traded it for the bowl of stew. Yep. So Jacob, his brother, who was, more refined and, stayed back at the tents and took care of the spiritual duties and things, God knew that he had the Spirit of God in him. Well, their mother, Rebecca, loved Jacob more. And when his father, Isaac, was dying, his mother even played a trick and kind of dressed up Jacob as Esau, because Esau was really hairy. He was really red, and that's why they named, him Esau, because that literally means red, and Edom means red. So they put animal skins on his arms and made his father, who couldn't see real well, think that he was blessing Esau, and that's how Jacob got the blessings, in a pretty unadmirable way. Now, most people who don't go into the Bible will then assume Jacob, he was a trickster, and he did a really bad thing, and he wasn't a good guy. But from God's perspective, which is the only relevant one, Esau didn't have the Spirit of God in him, and Jacob did. So when Esau came home, found out that Jacob now got the choicest blessings from his father on his father's deathbed that Esau was supposed to get, Esau was pretty ticked off and vowed to kill his brother, and his brother had to flee to another country, land far away. Well, all those years, Jacob had a pretty hard time, got ripped off several times and treated pretty badly, and worked his butt off to pay off this man who he had married his 2 daughters. And years and years and years, Jacob been feeling bad this whole time, sorrowful, couldn't see his mother, couldn't go home. What did he do to his family? Split his community. Well, fast forward several years, and Jacob gets word that Esau is approaching his city with many, many men, and Jacob is scared beyond belief, because he knows his brother's here to kill him, even after all these years. So he's exhausted, worn out, he's given up in his own spirit, and he was even afraid to pray to God, because he had felt so badly all those years on how he got the birthright and the blessing, that he didn't even want to pray to God, because he didn't feel worthy that God should help protect him against his brother. So his brother finally catches up with him. Long story short, his brother was no longer angry. They, hugged, made a truce, and everything was okay. But the whole moral of that being in the Bible is to point out, and this is who we are in this current day and end day, as Jacob versus the people of Esau that are around us right now in this end day. Esau was the kind of guy, didn't really have much care for the spiritual birthright, whereas, he cried and was furious when he found out Jacob got the blessings from his father. Yeah, he cried. He was upset. He was ticked off. But that wasn't, God viewed that as being like one of those people who get upset when they get caught doing something, when they get caught or punished for a crime, but they're not really sorry that they sinned, or not really sorry that they did the crime. We all know people like that. Whereas God viewed Jacob and all these years of Jacob's troubles as being, he felt so bad in his own sin this whole time that that's what ultimately led him to sin, sorrow, repentance. instead of the I got caught sorrow, repentance. And the troubles that we're all have been going through for some of us, or going to be going through for some of us, are these things that are going to make us, get us into the sin, sorrow, repentance mode to realize, these things about God, not the I'm sorry and I got caught, or I got to do this because we're in end days, like a lot of people in the sheepfold are going to be. So that's what the Jacob's trouble thing is all about. And then you remember Jacob wrestling with God in his sleep when he was so tired before Esau got there. Remember that angel as he slept on the rock and wrestled with him all night, hours and hours and hours and hours. He was so tired, and he wouldn't let this angel, which, was God, he wasn't going to let him go until God would bless him. So the whole thing with Jacob and the descendants and the regathering is that in the end, those of us who are meant to be are going to be victorious, because we're going to figure this out. And supposedly, according to the Bible, this place, which is pretty lonely, and it's out in the wilderness, and it ain't comfortable, and it's isolating, and it's horrible in respect to other people around us, but it's supposed to be a place that we come to really love God and trust God, and it's preparation for what we are going to be doing when we come back with the Messiah to touch down on the Mount of Olives.
So if I could ask you a question, I do understand a lot of the Bible. I'm just a layman. I'm just a normal person. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a scholar, but I do understand what you're saying. I do. I understand about Esau. I understand about Jacob. I understand when you say the time of Jacob's trouble. I understand about Israel. I understand what you're saying about. But what you're saying, I wanted to ask you just flat out, what do we do? What are we supposed to do? I mean, are we in danger? Are we in danger of damnation? Are we in danger of trouble? What are we supposed to do?
Those of us who are not successful in getting the correct relationship with God, right here where we are now, and even though it looks like we're here physically, we're actually spiritually also in this mystery Basra. And if we don't get it right, then those people will not go on to see the kingdom. Correct. That's true.
I see. Okay. I want to tell you, April, I respect what you're doing. I respect what you're doing. Okay. I mean that. I respect what you're doing. I hear what you're saying. You obviously put a lot of work into what you're saying. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't agree with what you're saying 100%, even though the tenets of what you're saying, the spiritual applications of what you're saying, I can agree with you on. Obviously, when you're talking about Abraham, Father Abraham, when you're talking about Jacob, Israel, when you're talking about his brother, when you're talking about his mother, when you're talking about Rachel, all of these applications are absolutely right on, obviously. Obviously him selling his birthright.
It's in the Bible, yeah, if you believe the Bible.
Him selling his birthright, okay? But the fact of the matter is that the Bible is full of truths. It doesn't mean that the truths are... I can write you a letter. I can write someone a letter, and you can read it. I can write Brian a letter, and you can read it. I can tell Brian a bunch of things that are meant for Brian. If you read it, you can take into account what I said, and you said, well, that's in the letter. That's what you said. Yes, but it's not to you. It's to Brian. It's not to you. It's to Brian. And it seems to me my biggest problem with what you're saying, doctrinally, with what you're saying, is you're applying a lot of things that are meant for Israel.
No. You're missing the point. When I say Israel, I'm not speaking physical Israel. What I have garnered from what I've read, people that are in our situation, you can literally substitute anytime you see the word Jerusalem, you can put in the word Jews in your mind. Anytime you see the word Israel, you need to automatically think spiritual Israel, which means the grafted two branches. That means the goal and objective. There's only one Israel. In the end day, they're not treated different than we are. They're not going to a different kingdom than we are. They're not undergoing a different judgment than we are. We're all one people. Everybody who is a Jesus-believing Christian, it's all the same. I'm talking spiritual Israel.
Right. I understand what you're saying. You're spiritualizing this thing. I understand. But I wanted to ask you, just flat out, as many people, I want to ask you, if you died right now, at this moment, let's say if you died tonight, are you absolutely sure that you'd go to heaven? Sure.
More than 1,000,000% now. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't have said that 2 years ago. I wouldn't have said that for the first 2 years that I went through this, because honest to God, I was scared shitless.
So my follow-up question, why would you go to heaven?
Because I know what God has directly told me and shown me and allowed me to understand out of the Bible now. Let me ask you something regarding the Bible changes. You know, there's a lot of changes to the Bible, right?
Right.
Okay. What purpose do you think there would be for, if you are a Christian, a true believing Christian,
right,
what would the number one outcome of having changes in the scriptures, especially the most known ones that every run-of-the-mill Christian would know from heart, you know, every word? Why do you think, what do you think is going to happen if somebody changes those? They're going to be pretty noticed, right, by Christians.
I think
they're not going to be noticed.
I think your question to me is, Ty, why do you think the Bible, God is allowing the Bible to change? Why would they be? Why would God allow the Bible to change?
To let us know. Just another clue, just like everything else, to let us know. Just like all the rainbow species of crap and everything that's showing up here. Do you remember what a rainbow represents? It represents a covenant, just like the covenant of God and Abraham and Jacob and his descendants. Everything we've gotten have been clues, but unless you do enough research and not just on the surface, to really spend time thinking it and linking different things from the Tanakh, from the Old Testament, from the New Testament. And I'll tell you something else. I have friends who are Sunni Muslim, Sufi Muslim, Shia Muslim, Sikh, Hindi. Had a friend who is a professor, 3 PhDs, 2 masters, really smart guy. He's Shia Muslim, teaches at a university on the other coast. He came to see me last week, and I'd been keeping him up to date over the last couple years, trying to figure out what, and are you seeing, and what do you think? Had a 2-hour discussion on their end of days, things that they're going to be seeing. And I was really shocked that everything that I have experienced, felt, know, and understand now, same thing he understands. The only difference is that they have other collections of literature that are end time prophetic things that are not in the Quran that they read. And he told me what some of them are. And I'm just telling you, people are not going to be prepared for what's coming, because, you know, he's a well-educated guy too. And they have a lot of literature as well. Lines up with ours. You know, they believe in Jesus and they believe that he's coming back too. And regarding these giants and the Nephilim,
the Muslims believe that they believe in Jesus. You're telling me that
absolutely,
the Muslims,
absolutely,
Jesus is coming back because they accept him as the Messiah.
Okay,
they think he's a prophet. They think he's a prophet.
And that's not the same thing.
Okay,
yeah, I said they believe in Jesus, but they believe he's a prophet. But
they believe in the same,
April, I got a question. Okay, most of my life, like I said, I haven't followed the Bible. I can't, you know, read off anything off by heart. Like, I'm just not a Bible person. And I've done stuff in my life that, like, not
We all have. We all have.
Yes.
We all have.
Yes, but you were going on a while ago about like if people aren't prepared to be at the right place at this time, then we're not going to be there. Like we're not going to be in heaven. So
my answer to that is
so like I mean my question is what do I have to do? Like
you need to earnestly and sincerely and frequently pray, because once you start praying, if your heart is genuine and really wants a relationship with God, God will know that. If you're going through the motions and you're not really genuine and you really are in love with this world more than you want a relationship and want to obey God, it's not going to happen. Let me tell you what I'm seeing with the people that I have started to have, you know, the divide with, like all of us have with our family members, friends. The initial divide is a lot bigger, and it's going to keep getting bigger, because what does the Bible say? Everybody who has whatever in their heart, and if it's good, you're going to get more of that. If you're doing bad things and you're evil, you're going to have more of that. And I don't think that the people who have been exposed to the Mandela effect by now, who are not getting it and understanding the significance and making it a big deal, I don't think they're going to get it, and I don't think they're meant to get it. As bad as that is to say, because that includes most of my own family, that is genuinely and sincerely what I see. And that's just what it is.
No, I agree with you.
Okay, Brian, you were going to say something, Brian? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say there is a good point here. You know, the Muslims, they don't necessarily believe that Jesus is the Son of God. And to them, Jesus is a prophet and not God. That's the thing. There is a verse here from Luke. Share with you guys, if that's okay, real quick.
Yes.
I think this has a lot to do with what you're saying, April. And if you read verse 24, Luke 21, it says, "And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, time fulfilled. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and waves roaring." Now, I don't remember this perplexity word. That might be new to me. I don't remember that word.
No, I remember that one.
You do? Okay. But
I mean, but that's only from this timeline, because like I said, I only started getting into this, you know, early this year. So
what are they talking about here? The times of the Gentiles being fulfilled. That's my question.
Because remember, just like when everybody was going to be sealed, there was going to be the 144,000 that were sealed. That couldn't be done. And remember, they said to hold back the angels from blowing whatever until the sealing could occur. And that couldn't occur until the number of Gentiles had been fulfilled. In other words, the Jews were given, you know, they're the chosen people in the beginning. And every one of them that rejected Jesus, then, you know, all of us that got grafted in and we came in more numbers and more numbers. Apparently there had to be some number that came until the sealing could be done, until, you know, things could start rolling out. That's all I know about that. But what I was going to tell you is the end discussion that I had with my friend is, you know how they were talking about, you know, like the giant that was found by our military in Afghanistan, the big Nephilim giant guy, and everybody's like, yeah, I don't know, is it true, is it not? Well, my friend is from Pakistan, and Afghanistan borders that to the north. And he said, oh yeah, that is absolutely true. They have huge graveyard cemeteries up there where all of these giants are buried. And furthermore, they believe that the wall that's being lowered, and then when it's all the way down, that's when these beasts and Gog and Magog are going to come out. They think that might be, metaphorically speaking, the Great Wall of China, and these giants and all these other creatures, like people are not going to be prepared for, are waiting to get out from there. And they've been tearing it down, and God's been protecting it supernaturally, holding it back. But I think it's coming down more and more. And when that's down, that's when all this stuff is going to come up and out. And it's in the Bible too. I'm just saying.
I hear what you're saying.
Is that the whole Antarctica thing or what?
Well, that's what I asked too. I'm like, well, do you think that that's the only place that they're at? I said, because there's an awful lot of information and people talking about Antarctica right now. And, the Russian Orthodox, Kirill was down there with all the world dignitaries. He said, oh, I'm sure. Absolutely, I'm sure. He said, people have no idea what is in the oceans and what's going to come out of the oceans, what's under the ground and what's going to come out of the ground. And I said, well, I do now. I said, I've been researching this.
Yeah, one of the things that you said, though, when I asked if you would go to heaven, one of the things you said is that you were following the Bible.
I'm following God.
Right,
I'm following God directly.
You're following God directly.
Because God is the Word. God is the Word. People keep thinking the Bible is the Word.
Right.
And that's the argument, with the changes and why people are saying it's Satan. And, God said, the Word can never be changed. He's the same. Okay.
So I thought it was, the faith in Jesus Christ. That's what I was always taught.
It is through Jesus Christ. Yes, the only way to heaven is through Jesus. Yeah.
But but through Jesus Christ.
That's like arbitrary distinction. I'm praying to God. I'm praying to Jesus. That's what I mean.
But why did he die on the cross? I mean, that doesn't. I mean, you know what I mean? Why did he die on the cross?
Why did he?
Yeah. I mean, why couldn't it have been someone else? I mean, it doesn't really matter. We pray to Jesus regardless. He died, so what?
It couldn't have been somebody else. Let me tell you something. And I'm going to say this because I watched one of our fellow YouTubers who's been out for a long time, love him dearly, but then he took a little bit of a diversion on some of his last videos and coming up with the questions that we all have or have had at least one time as humans regarding God, regarding the Bible, regarding Jesus. And he was going off and rightfully upset because this is a really distressing time, a confusing time. Nobody wants to make a wrong step here. And he was questioning, why put the tree of, knowledge of good and evil in the garden? That sets us up. It's like putting candy in the baby's room. A lot of things, it just don't make sense to him. Okay, we're not God. And we're looking at things from a human perspective. None of us, when we come up with all these objections and arguments, we're not coming at them from God's perspective, which is much, much, much different than ours. We don't know God's plan, can't ever expect to know God's plan, not as great as God, not as smart as, none of that, okay? So in the beginning...
You're saying belief in Jesus Christ, and I'm saying what's the difference of a belief in Jesus Christ and a belief in Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny? What difference does it make? You're saying you believe in Jesus Christ as God. So what? Even the devils believe that Jesus is God, but they tremble. What difference is it to me? What difference is it to you?
Well, if they tremble in front of God, you better have the fear of God in you as well, because anybody who doesn't is going to be in trouble. That I know.
What I'm asking you, April, is simply, how does Jesus Christ save you?
He was... The Old Testament, they were under the law, the age of the law. Amen. When Jesus came on earth and he died for us, we were no longer under the covenant to follow the law. We then went under the age of grace. And that was because Jesus died, was the sacrifice, shed his blood. That is what saved us. But when we're out of the age of grace, which I believe we are now out of the age of grace, things are going to matter. And if you don't believe that Jesus was the Son of God, died on the cross.
That makes complete sense to me now, because you believe that we're no longer in the church age, that we're in the tribulation period.
That is what I believe, yes.
Well, that would make all the difference in the world to everyone in the audience. You don't believe that we're in the church age. We're no longer in the age of grace. We are in the tribulation period, and we have to work our way to heaven. If that were true, everything
No,
you said...
I didn't say you have to work your way to heaven. Those people who are true believers when they got here or before they were here, and if they are now, those people are fine. It is those people who are undergoing symptoms of Jacob's trouble, who, you know, had problems in their life or were a little bit of troublemakers or rebellious. If they're not going to get it and come to Jesus and God and have the type of relationship that he wants you to, and obey what he's saying right now, and do the mission, do the job that he wants you, that you were called for, then those people are going to be in trouble. Now, I believe people have different roles.
I understand. So straight question then to you, because what you just said is very important, only because our audience are not as may not be as articulate as you are, and may not be as knowledgeable as you are in what you're saying, spiritually or figuratively, about the Bible and about faith. I want to ask you, when you said you believe we're no longer in the church age and that we're in the tribulation period, and I tripped up when I said working your way to heaven. I shouldn't have said that. I took a leap there. But I want to ask you, how did you determine that we're no longer in the church age?
Through the Bible. There's all kinds of things that point out. Well, you'll have to watch the next video, because it's a lot of information.
Thankfully, I don't
listen. There are places, and there's places where they give dates of when this is and when this is, and if they give a date of that, and if you know what a time is and a time and a half is, it's all there. Lots of Bibles even have, you know, drawings and charts that have different things. And if you happen to know, as somebody who's been affected and have experienced something personally, that you know what it is, and you can look at this and say, okay, well, I know what this is, and this goes here, and I know what this is, and now I know that it says this time, and this time, and I know what I've seen happen. You know what? There was a set of Bible drawings that I found and that I have, copyright like 1918, from some old pastor who's now, you know, no longer here. And interestingly enough, on one of these drawings, in the place, in the column where the word rapture should be, at the end of the age of the church and at the beginning of the, you know, tribulation, guess what word is in its place? Translated saints. That's the place where all these people are getting taken up by the eagle and flown off to this other place. And interestingly enough, there's a place where, if you know anything, because it's labeled as Moses and Elijah as the two witnesses, but it's not in the place where they lived way back in days of antiquity, but it's showing them on the chart as they're here now to do their job. Well, we are, in different ways, these two witnesses, these two groups, and we are representing, you know, Moses and Elijah, taken while we were alive, just like them, translated, purified, and here we are to do our job. So it's easy to argue and come up with a lot of things if you haven't put in the time and shown God that you're willing to put in the effort to figure things out, and he knows. So I'm just saying it's worth everybody's time to really make the effort and show him you're willing to make the effort. Because if you're spending your time watching the game and
April, I do understand what you're saying. Listen to what you said. I have put in the time.
Okay.
I have put in the time.
Hi, Meegs.
Hello, Meegs.
Hi, Meegs.
Oh, what's up, guys?
Hi, Meegs.
Hey.
Hi, Megs. How are you?
Good to have you.
I'm late again.
It's okay. You sound kind of
muffled.
muffled.
Got out of work. So please
Oh, yeah, that's late.
Steve, can you adjust your mic a little?
Did I bike? No.
Are you on speaker?
It was like a big event, this huge dinner. Oh my gosh. I was just run ragged, so forgive me. I'm totally exhausted.
But the question is, did you have the time to make a video, Megs, before you came on?
Did I have time to take a video?
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
No, I went to the symphony today, though. I had time for that.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
What have you guys been talking about?
God.
God. Well, that's worth talking
Well, we've covered a lot of things, Megs.
History and God.
You guys are probably
the Hindenburg and God.
Yeah. In that order.
Well, hopefully in that order stayed in the end.
Hey, I wanted to interject here. April, you're saying a lot of stuff that I can certainly appreciate. The thing that really gets me is that, look, I know the Bible from what I remember it to be, and then you have all these changes. And in fact, in certain cases, the Ezekiel 23:20, it's now become like pornographic. There's things that aren't even, that didn't even exist back in
your job isn't to worry about the changes. The changes are for those people who have the word written on their heart to wake you up, to trigger you, to let you know. You don't be focusing on that and don't get all whatever. You need to stay as close to God as you can, because the guidance that's going to be coming, the supernatural guidance that's going to be needed to get through what's coming, you need to be praying to God and not just be focused on the changing words. Because if you already knew the word and you were already with God, then you would recognize that for what it is, instead of even getting in arguments anymore with the people that, no, that's the way it's always been, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with them anymore because I know what's going on.
Right.
Interesting. Meegs, you missed a lot. We were actually going over some of the. No, that's all right. No, actually, it's been pretty interesting. There's been some new developments, obviously.
Yo, Teresa, you there?
What's up, girl?
Yeah.
What's up, Teresa?
She's been hanging out in the ether. She's there.
How you hanging on this lovely Mandela evening? Wait, Brian, how was your birthday, dude?
Oh man, it was great. I took the kids bowling and we went to see
the Mandela Effect. He got a year younger. Well, that's what he wants to believe, and we're just going with it.
Right.
I've seen Thorg. We're going 4 times.
Mandela Effect. He got 2 strikes that night.
I still haven't seen Thor yet. I'm jealous.
Sure.
Oh my goodness.
Guardians of the Galaxy's on Netflix there now, so part 2. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you're leaving us? Is that what it means?
Teresa, you haven't gotten to meet Changing Matrix yet. I wanted to give a shout out for you, get you to, meet and talk or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think Meegs and I have actually made our I've not personally met her. Meegs, I've been following you for a little bit, so it's really nice to actually talk to you firsthand. Yeah, that's me. We finally meet, and you love me.
You didn't know. I said the same thing, right?
Poor Wendy.
You guys have been together now for about 3 months. You had no idea.
No idea.
As long as you don't call me.
This is true.
Meegs the rapist. Whatever.
Don't worry, Troy is not running for Congress. Don't worry.
No, but we always have a lot of fun.
Wait, so you do videos? What's your channel name?
You guys.
What's your channel name? Steelers? Wait.
Oh no! I don't have a channel. I just I chime in every so often. In fact, I've been following Brian for a long time. I'm relatively new to this whole thing, so essentially, I'm just kind of going, I'm going through the experiences like anyone else. But I finally just decided to jump on in because, man, there's a lot of things that I've experienced as well that, I've kind of been tucking them away and just kind of ducking and dodging, not trying to make a big scene. But it's like, man, I got to say something. I got to, jump in with both feet because,
well,
you know what I mean? It's
we're
like
all finding out that like the people we see are precious and few and far between.
Absolutely.
So
well,
if we have voices, we gotta use them.
It's like, well, not only that, but it's like, man, real people. I want to talk to real people for once. You know what I mean?
Right.
I know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We're pretty
talk
real.
to my kind. Oh yeah. Oh, it's nice. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Megs, I'm absolutely. I am now thoroughly convinced that your logo should be a happy face button. That's what it should be, right? And Troy, I hate to let you know, you thought that Megs was interested to find out what your channel name was. He was actually trying to find out what to fill out on the restraining order form.
Oh, yeah.
That's what she does. She's that way. She is that way.
Just send it to the channel. I'm sure I'll pick it up somewhere down the line.
You seem perfectly sort of normal, so
that's the way it always starts out. Always normal. That's what it happens.
Yeah, Ty's right. Ty's right. Yeah. I come off charming, but don't
He was so nice. He was so nice until I had to leave. That was in the crosswalk before the. What do you mean it's over? We just met each other. I understand. I love you.
Hey, can I ask all of you guys a question?
What's up?
Yeah. Are there any of you who have conversations with anybody who's not affected that actually seems like a real conversation, like ever, or is that non-existent really to you?
Are you referring to the Mr. Smith syndrome, where they become like automatons when you talk to them?
Well, yeah, I mean, because like I'm sure probably most of you try to figure out, are they like AI? Are they clones? Are they
Mr. Smith?
Like, but is there anybody that you know of that's not affected that can actually have a real conversation, or not anymore?
About the Mandela Effect, or just
no? I'm just talking about to have a normal, real conversation. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely appreciate the Mr. Smith phenomenon, like the time.
That's what I call it.
But I don't think I more lean towards the fact that ingested nanotechnology has compromised people. Not that they're like non-playing characters or clones or empty vessels necessarily. I just think like that it's the nanotech affecting people.
You think it's like shut their God gene off or something? You think that's what it is?
I think it's maybe what the Bible calls like given over to a reprobate mind. It's still hard to figure out because devout Christians, followers of Jesus.
I know.
Devout Christians.
Well, that's why I was just wondering if any of you had any person you know of that is capable of having a normal, real, deep conversation who isn't affected, because I don't find any, and I mean zero.
And I have to admit, I have to admit, it's so bad, just like April just said, that I hesitate to tell people because I found I'm a serious guy as it is. They know that I'm serious. They know that I'm telling the truth, and I tend to they turn off just like that. That's what happens. And I hesitate because I don't want them to turn off, but yet I got to tell. So it's kind of.
Well, I don't even mean talking about the Mandela effect. I mean like
general,
any deep, normal conversation.
Yeah, I know some people that aren't affected that can get really deep, about like interesting stuff and
I can tell you that, Meegs, I can tell you that in April, to answer your question, I can tell you that even as now when I approach the subject in public, like you would say, Brian, the Kit Kat logo, or Teresa would bring up something, I would bring up the Lindbergh baby or something, and as soon as I bring something up, I'm sorry to say, guys, every time, it wasn't 100 times, but half a dozen times, They changed. Their personality changed, and the relationship, their relationship with me has changed. It changes
And it's
every
a non
time.
sequitur response.
Yes.
No, I'm with you on that too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that I can have conversations with, but not too deep.
Right, and I thought I was being sneaky. I thought I was being sneaky too, but as soon as I drop it, no, it's over. I can't believe I know my days are
not interested. They're abnormally not interested.
Like, I just don't understand why they can't get even yelling in their face. Do you really think that is a normal human response? And I would even question, like last month, you probably know, Brian, but not everybody else yet. I finally got divorced last month. But I mean, I got no problem being like right in your face to like prove my point. And I would even try to test him. I would say, okay, then if you don't hear what I'm saying and you don't believe me, I said, let me test you. You know, give me one sentence that is original, novel, of your own, you know, spirit, heart, whatever. And all I would get back, even under testing situations, when you know he was being tested, is silence. I don't know what you want me to say. Well, I don't know. What do you want me to say? Like, he could not do it. It's like, if it's not in their program, they cannot think, act, say nothing.
Got some parameters.
That is eerie. That would freak me out a little bit. That freaked me out a little bit.
I've actually gone to ministers and pastors and tried to ask them questions about that, and they just look at like I'm loony or something, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I noticed recently, and guys, I noticed recently, a lot of people don't know a lot about a lot of things anymore.
I know.
That's it. Yeah, that's the other response I get. I don't know. I'm like, well, you got to know something. One thing. You got to know just one thing.
Right, April, you're right. These are people that could sit there and pontificate and sit there and go on and on about belly button lint for an hour and a half, right? About their belly button lint collection. Right, and now you're asking them something, and they're looking at you like they don't even understand what you just said. They
know nothing.
7 times.
Yeah.
I make Kool-Aid again. It's sugar, and then you add the Kool-Aid, then you stir it up, right? I don't understand what you mean. You put it in the water, you stir it, right? I don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah. If I never, and then right back to business as usual. It's like, what the hell, man? I gotta get out of here.
It's horrible.
You don't know about the North Pole, but you.
I know. Oh my gosh, I know.
Right. Should care.
They all turned into stormtroopers, obviously.
Right.
Like, they're all stormtroopers. They bang their hands.
Well, even when you try to tell them, I'm like, you remember Al Gore on Inconvenient Truth? They kept saying if the North Pole melted just 5%, we were all going to be underwater. So what happened? You remember Al Gore saying that,
right?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. No, I don't know.
They don't care because why? They want to talk about their belly button lint. That's more important, don't you know?
Seriously.
I was talking about belly button lint, and you're interrupting me with some stupid thing like the disappearance of the North Pole. Tyler, I don't care.
It's funny, man, because I mentioned something like that to some guy too, and he told me to consult a cartographer. I'm like, are you kidding me, man?
Unreal.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, let me just go consult one of those guys. I'll go ask him.
I went to a bookstore today, and they were having like a really, the owner and some customer were having like a really intelligent conversation, and one guy said he was like a college English professor or whatever. So I waited till the customer left, and I came up there, and there were like 3 staff members of the bookstore. It was like a tiny mom and pop bookstore, and I was like, I was so excited that somebody in the world was having an intelligent conversation in public that I like marched right up to them. I like mustered up my confidence. I marched right up to them. I was like, hey guys, have you ever heard of the Mandela Effect? And I was like, It's changed. It's changing things. It's changing titles of things.
Right.
Do you
This
remember
guy's
the
got the
portrait of
restraining
Dorian
order ready
Gray?
in his pocket. It's ready to go. He's like, just let me use that. He's reaching for his pepper spray. He's reaching for his pepper
You
spray.
guys seem to care about smart things or whatever. And so anyway,
true.
the portrait of Dorian Gray changed to the picture of Dorian Gray. I was like, all these things. I went through the whole rigmarole, and it's like people don't even have it. It's not even conceivable that something quantum like this could be happening. They cannot even conceive when it appears to be so easy for some people to just pick it right up. So I sat there explaining and trying to make it, interesting for them and accessible. But then that one guy that I thought was, smart, just overhearing him in conversation, he just starts saying, well, Trump now is putting out all this hogwash and young people are just starting to follow suit. And now you just have the internet's ruining everybody's intellects and blah blah blah.
Oh boy!
I've not met a young person yet that cares about Trump.
He's like, it's just all this stuff is just on the internet, and I'm like, yeah, but but it's real. Come on,
So, now, Megs, just for personal experience, just to let you know, from personal experience, what might help you is you take one of those small plastic bags, the kinds that you use for lunch or whatever. Take one of those small plastic bags, and you fill it full of belly button lint, and this way you can hand it out.
Right.
Oh, just maybe
as a conversation starter, it's so popular at parties.
That's a great.
So popular at parties. Not the Weinstein parties. No, stay away from the Weinstein parties and stay away from those. But other than those, you'll be fine with the belly button lint.
There you go. It's a good parting gift too. But I did give them a business card. I finally printed out business cards for my
with your address.
Channel.
Don't do that. No.
If you want to discuss the Mandela Effect, call me. Here's my card.
Yeah, don't do that. Give them. I don't know if you met Brian. Give Brian the number. Give him Brian's number. I'll love it. At least he'll sell some T-shirts. He'll sell some T-shirts in the deal.
Listen, right? You know those spam people that you got to type in your email address and they'll send you something? Like spam. I usually give them my Mandela Effect awareness email. Seriously.
That's awesome. Make this it's fun to just slide it on over to people, But I'm slightly embarrassed to give mine out because I was way too excited when I made them, when I created them. It says it's all cheesy. It's I'm like a purveyor of truth and we met for a reason.
Brian, Dollyhead Braces has a question in the panel.
Yeah, that's right. Dollyhead Braces had a question for the panel, guys.
It was good on Dolly.
Are there any preachers that anyone listens to that provides genuine spiritual guidance for you guys?
I still listen to Pastor Lawson every night.
I've had a couple of pastors and preachers that have actually reached out to me in private that are going through this with a little bit of concern because they don't know how to approach their congregation.
Wow.
Well, one of them was actually a worse situation than that. One has been getting a lot of demonic attacks and has learned that because I guess they went through this separation or whatever feeling from God for a period of time and then got back, but they didn't let up and they know that they have to stay so close and do everything that they feel God is asking them and telling them. But for some reason, they're having a lot of trouble with knowing how to do this. And then I just had somebody I noticed that had commented under the last video, or one of the last videos I did with the Lion and the Lamb, the message to, the religious leaders. And there was a pastor that commented on there, long comment, is doing what he needs to be doing and is telling people, and found a pretty ingenuine way to come out and plant the seed for his congregation. And he left a link and I went and looked at that, and he did that a year ago. So I know there are some who are understanding what this is and are going to do what they're being called to do because they know better. But I suspect there are many, many more who are either not even getting the call because they're so busy with worldly things that they're not even aware, won't even take the time to research it, and are not doing the right thing if they are aware, unfortunately. Yeah. But there's a lot of religious people, leaders also affected just like everybody else. But they're not going to come forward like us.
It's so validating and reassuring that you're hearing from people like that. You know, there's a pastor on EYA recently. I think his name is Robbie Santiago. He's a pastor and he is affected and talked about it. And I mean, it's just amazing that we do at least have a few speaking up. I think the first one, do you remember the OD channel or the Esoteric Detective channel with the original heartbroken pastor talks about the Mandela Effect to his congregation? Yes. I think his name was Pastor Garcia or something Garcia.
Oh, but, I don't remember his name, but I saw that video too.
I think he died since then, unfortunately. So it's like I don't even know of one other pastor who actively speaks about it besides Robbie, who was on EYA's channel. But I mean, I would hope, but you know, in the next couple months, and I don't know how long this is going to go on, but I'd hope to hear more and more voices because
the people that are affected,
it's going to be an avalanche.
Yes, that's what I think.
Let's hope that the voices that you hear are actually talking to you and not in your head. That's a bad thing.
What were you going to say, Changing Matrix?
Well, I was just going to say, you know how it's been with all of us, where initially when all of this started, it's like an embarrassment and there's no way you're going to come out public and you're going to say certain things. And all of a sudden you get to a point where and that impetus to get out there and talk about it and help others who are going through it. I think that, because we did come here in at least three different waves, that the people who are just getting exposed that weren't woken up when they came, it takes them some time too. So I think more of the people who were affected, when they get it, they will start doing what a lot of us have ended up doing. But yeah, I couldn't imagine any of us in the beginning having the courage to come out and do this because it's insane. And I get why nobody would believe us. I wouldn't believe it. But if you hear enough and there's enough evidence, any logical, educated, intelligent person is going to have to, listen to something at some point. Because if they wait until they start seeing stuff, the only way to make it after that is really going to be through martyrdom, and that's not ideal,
Right. But yeah, you're so right. There is a gestation period, between when you very first see it and when you're ready to really deal with it, So we got to...
got a question.
Meegs?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Meegs, I got a question for you. I just, from your last video, you were saying about kind of being attacked while you're sleeping and stuff. I'm just wondering if you wanted to talk about that, like I don't know if it's personal or whatever, but I was just kind of wondering what happened there, like
I'll just touch on it real quick. Is your name April, Changing Matrix? Is that your name?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, April. That's so interesting that you brought up that. Was it a pastor who just woke up to the Mandela Effect and they're getting constant demonic attacks or spiritual attacks?
They woke up a couple years ago, but they don't really know what to do because, and I'm not really, I can tell you my gut feeling, because they also told me that something that happened to them where, how some people say that like God gave them a new name or something, like sometimes, the Bible has said that about different characters. They got a different name.
I'll just, thanks. Sorry, I'm still listening.
No, that's okay. Well, they were just kind of concerned because they were given a name by one of these things, or they weren't sure if it was by that or by God. And I didn't want to tell them because I would have thought that they would have known this. But the word that this entity kept saying to them was the name Ishmael. Ishmael.
Oh, wow.
And if you know what that means, that's not a good thing, because if that's who their spirit really is, and that could be why they're being attacked, because if you're from the line of Ishmael, those are the cursed people that are going to be getting slaughtered. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I kind of have to be careful what I say, because, who wants to tell somebody that?
Right. Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah, it's weird. Even like Guy Fawkes talks about like spiritual attacks and demonic attacks, like kind of since waking up to the Mandela Effect. I think he had them before, but they seem to they seem to increase once you really wake up. And for me, since I like became born again, they've happened like they've just started happening like almost a little more than a year ago. And so it's super interesting. It's like the Mandela Effect will wake you up to the spiritual side of things. And, it's like once you're woken up, they know, because they're roaming around among us. That people talk about familiar spirits and, like even in Islam, they have the word jinn or the name to describe them, or like DJINN. I mean, a lot of cultures throughout time and history have acknowledged these entities and have names for them. It's just in the West, when we're under the religion of scientism, that we have no room to talk about these things. So, but yeah, for me, I mean, they come every once in a while. In the past year, it's been kind of crazy, but yeah, I don't know. I felt like it's the kind of thing where when it happens, you just feel so weird about it that you just rather kind of block it out. And especially if it's like a sexual attack or whatever, I mean, it's just, that happens a lot. And I was looking up videos about like incubus and succubus spirits, and like there's actually a lot of Christians like talking about this and like relaying their experiences, and it's nothing to be embarrassed of, because I'm finding, oh, thank you so much. Okay, cool. See you later. But yeah, it happens to a lot more people than I knew of, and then I mean, it's just all you have to do is look on YouTube about these people giving their testimonials, and it's just when I experience this, you wake up and you're back in reality and back in the real world, and it's like, oh, you can just let it go or whatever, like push it to the side. But really, I mean, that's an infringement of your rights, of your personal. That's like an invasion of your privacy in the extreme. I mean, it's not as bad really as a physical rape, but I mean, it doesn't even have to be like a sexual demonic experience. It could be even just be like a sleep paralysis or a night terror. And
I had those bad.
It's terrible. It's terrifying. And the one of the only ways to fight this or feel like you get your control back or whatever is, first of all, to pray, but second of all, to just say like, publicly, or to talk about it, like I don't consent to this, and this is what you can do to stop it. And
most of the crazy stuff that I saw, or the dark scary stuff that I felt or whatever, really all of that, even though I maybe went through it longer than a lot of people from when all this started, but once I really put the first pieces in place to realize this was a God thing, like back in April of this year, and then really started researching the Bible. Once I did that, all of that stuff completely stopped. The only thing that hasn't stopped for me is all the supernatural manipulation with like communication and phone things and emails and conversations. That stuff is still going full force and even getting crazier. But all of the really scary stuff that I experienced like I didn't have like a sexual attack or anything, but I remember before I left my apartment and went to Tennessee for the first time, when I had moved out from the house, when I got separated first, I remember being in the shower, same routine every time I'm in there. I wash my face, look in the big mirror so I can see the bathroom door, wash it off again, look in the mirror just out of habit so I can see out the bathroom door into the room. And the third time I did it, when I got the soap off and opened my eyes, my bathroom door was completely shut instead of being completely open. And I was, of course, in my apartment alone. And I freaked out so bad. I jumped out of the shower. I grabbed my towel. I laid on the floor. I locked the door, first of all, and I tried looking under the door. And I could hear somebody in the next room. And I'm thinking, okay, now how am I going to get out of here and out the door of my apartment? Because the bathroom's on the opposite side. So I laid there for a few minutes, sopping wet, just a towel. And then I finally decided I was going to get brave and make a run for it. I knew where my keys were on the couch on the way out the door. I literally took off, went out the door, didn't lock the door. I was naked in a towel, got in my car, got all the way to, I mean, it was just like scary stuff.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, guys. Like, I mean, mine, like, I was just going to say, like, mine was just like a minor, like, choking. Like, I felt like I was choking.
Yeah, see,
like,
that's common.
But I mean, like, you guys, I mean, that, what you guys just said.
My story, I've had problems with stuff many years ago. I have not had any problems at all since the revelation of the Mandela Effect. No problems at all. Nothing. Like everything stopped. Everything came to a complete standstill. But it's strange. But I'll get into that another time. The things that you guys have going on, I had back in 2007, I guess 2006, 2007. What happened was I went to bed one night. And it was a weird, eerie type of feeling when I went to bed. I laid down, and I felt like I in my mind, you know, mind's eye, I felt like, you know, like there's, just bear with me, like someone's at the door. And I said, oh, that's crazy. I put it out of my mind. Now someone's in the room. I said, oh, spit that out of my mind. Someone's next to the bed.
Yep.
I put it out of my mind. Someone's right next to me.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Now I'm panicking. I'm like, wait a second. I'm grown. I can't. But I'm panicking and I'm praying and I can't make this. God, I'm praying. Yep. I'm desperate. So this is what happened.
That was a year. That was my first year.
But this is what happened. The next day, as I'm going, oh my gosh! And now this is what happened. I wake up in the middle of the night. I turn on the TV. As soon as that happens, because I can't take it anymore, I wake up. You know, like I'm still awake. I did not fall asleep. I get out of bed. I turn on the TV. My wife is now yelling at me. She's like, "What are you doing?" Honey, I'm turning on the TV. She goes, "Well, just leave me alone." I said, "Okay, no problem." Jeez, you guys are crazy. And we continue this until the next day. The next morning, my wife goes, "You know, you wouldn't let me sleep." Geez, I'm sorry. You know, if I bothered you, I apologize as anybody would. And we're having breakfast at a restaurant, and we're all sitting there. There's four of us together, and I said, "I'm sorry, you know, she's upset, I'm feeling like I should just drop it, you know." But I said, "No, wait a second. I said I was sorry. No, but you wouldn't let me sleep. I'm sorry. And you know, I couldn't sleep. I'm sorry, I couldn't sleep. I wouldn't explain that I was terrified. You see, I wasn't going to go there." And something happened. This is the strange thing. I said the words that nobody would ever say in a conversation, because in my mind, I went to bed. I was frightened. I was terrified. I was freaked out. Whatever you want to say. Then I got up and I must have woke her up. I'm sorry. And the words came out of my mouth. The sentence was this: "What was the sequence of events that you remember?" This is the only question that nobody would ever ask. And I just spit it out. What was the sequence of events that you remember? And what my wife told me was the most horrifying thing I've ever heard.
Wow.
And I don't tell the story, but apparently I did not go to bed. Apparently I didn't go to sleep. I didn't get up. I didn't just turn on the TV. there's a whole night of stuff that happened that I have no recollection of at all.
Wow.
And this was part of it. This is what, 10, 11, 12 years ago, whatever it was, And no, it was a demonic time. It was a haunted house. It was whatever it was. There was lots of stuff going on. But that's not a story that I share too often. Because why? Well, people don't like it when you tell them stuff like that. But,
right.
They tend not to. They tend not to Facebook friend request you at that point. Oh, this guy's crazy. But this is what happened, and it was the most freaked out thing, and it just terrible. What would you do with something like that?
Well, then you're afraid to go to sleep, and a lot of us didn't go to, have not slept and were up all night. And I remember one night when I went to Michigan last summer, in the middle of all this, because there were a few nights out of this whole time that were the most pronounced out of any of the other times when all of this feeling like somebody's next to you or just some impending doom, just great anxiety. And I remember once in Michigan feeling like everything had just stopped, like the matrix around me, and like somebody was right there, but I couldn't see him. And I was just filled with so much dread that at my father's, I had to leave my side of the house unit, and I went in front of his closed door bedroom, and I slept on the floor in front of his door because I was so scared.
Wow.
And just, and not all the nights were like that, but there were a few nights that I know that whenever these shifting or whenever these waves were coming or timelines were crossing or whatever it is, I know what those times were, and they were really, really brutal,
Wow. Yeah, the amount of fear that these things can elicit is just unimaginable.
Wow, this is pretty bizarre because everyone here has those stories. I've even got my fair share as well. I didn't know that this right here was one of the common things with a lot of people going through
empaths, and not too many people admit to it. They want to admit
to
it.
What I suspect is what that feeling is and what that darkness is. If the Bible is right and we were on that great eagle, crossing a big chasm divide across parallel universes to get to Basra, maybe that apprehension and anxiety and fear we felt was from traveling across that dark chasm where all the spirits are. Who knows?
Well, I do a little bit because these things were very, very personal, and it just didn't stop there. As some people know here, Brian knows. I told Harold a couple of things, but these things were not speaking to me. These demons, devils didn't speak to me. Ironically, they spoke to the people who knew me. They talked to my friends. And what did they say? Not going to believe what they said. They would come to them. My friends would come to me terrified, shaking, unbelievably crazy. Tyler, I got to talk to you. What is it? What's going on? I got to talk to you right now. It's important. Last night, I'm sleeping. I'm in bed. There's something standing right there. There's something standing right there. What is it? The thing standing right there said, Tyler, we want Tyler. Where is Tyler? And it just didn't happen once. It wasn't just one guy. It wasn't just one friend. It happened over and over again. So what's that? I don't know.
That's
and I told him to try to come. I said, that's very creepy. Believe me, I Googled that to full extent, and I asked people, and I even went to a preacher. I went to a pastor because I said, maybe this guy knows more than I do because I got nothing from Googling anything, you see. I talked to a pastor, and I said, how long have you been doing this? He goes, well, about 40 years. 40 years, huh? Well, let me ask you a question. And I told him the story. And he goes, listen, I've been doing this a long time. I have never heard of anything like that before.
Wow.
And he was more freaked out.
I haven't either.
He was more freaked out than I was. And I'm sorry. And I was trying to calm him down. It's okay. Don't worry. And no, he didn't hear of anything. So I said to myself, who would, and I said, well, what would take me off the grid that a devil couldn't find me? What would take me away that something couldn't find where I was? And it's crazy. So that's
wow.
I'm just sharing. So I'm saying that the normal stuff, maybe it's not the normal stuff. And I said, I haven't even seen stuff like that on TV. I've never read anything like that before. But and here I am.
You know who the Bible says is looking for us because he wants to kill us, the crouching dragon in front of the woman. He wants to devour us. So
except he knows where we are. There's no joke where we are. There's no question where we are. You know where we are.
I don't know. God is, he said, close up the mystery until the end of days. Don't reveal it in John's vision. God has his plans and his mysteries as well that we aren't aware of. And,
Well, they said my friend actually had the audacity, and I was stupid enough to answer him. He goes, well, why in the world would they be looking for you, Ty? Why in the world are they looking for you? I said, I don't know. I said, well, there is a reason why they're looking for me. I said, well, why? I said, well, obviously it's not to make friends. Obviously, obviously it's not good. So, but that, like I said, that was years ago. Unfortunately, I haven't had any real bad experiences. So
good.
So again, your friend heard a disembodied voice asking for you.
Yeah, but one of my friends died right afterwards. He died right afterwards. Wasn't 2 weeks later. She died right afterwards. Another friend, of course, I never talked to again. And the other girl died of a drug overdose.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just, but 6 of one, half a dozen in the other. I'm not trying to figure it out. I'm just saying it happened. It's just one of those things.
Has anybody experienced any EVP like I have?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Were these
yeah.
I don't
Becky's
think so.
experienced that.
Yeah. I stay away from EVPs because there's no communication. I don't want any communication.
Good.
At all.
Good.
Yeah, I don't do that.
unwanted?
EVPs to me are just like Ouija boards to me.
Yep,
Why in the world would you do it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah. And sometimes, like I tell people all the time, sometimes things notice you because you notice them.
Yep.
That is true.
So,
that is very true.
If you see something, I don't see anything. It's all in the mind's eye. You think something's there, you know what? Don't look twice. Don't look twice. And then you got problems, things following you home. You don't want to do that. Just leave it alone.
Gotcha.
And this, but like I said, I really have.
Right.
Don't go in the graveyards. Don't go ghost hunting. Don't be stupid.
Right.
If you want a feeling, take a cold shower. Really. Want to be spooked out? Go look at your. If you want to be spooked out, just go look at your cable bill. You'll be spooked out.
They love our interest in them when really it's just they feed off of the fear they're able to elicit in us, because we just get in our minds all these images of horror films and stuff, and that is what these things are.
Conjuring.
I mean, they really look like that kind of
that's
stuff.
Like Conjuring.
But
right.
The power, if you have a relationship with Jesus, they just crumble like dust.
Well, the veil was put there for a reason. People should not be playing around to take it down because they can get into trouble that they can't get out of.
The thing is that the fact of the matter is angels, like demons, they're always there. They're always there. If you're talking about devils, you're talking about demons, they are right there. They're standing right there. They're listening. They're the accuser of the brethren.
Yeah.
They're listening. They're taking notes. They're taking notes. Craziest thing. And they know they know who you love. If they can't get to you, they'll go after who you love. They'll go after. It's very, very strange. It's just one of those things. It's very maniacal, and it's just my opinion. I know. I don't have any proof. I mean, I used to have pictures. I used to have EVPs. I used to, and I'm like, why in the world? I don't. Why in the world would I keep that? I talked to one fellow one time about this, and he goes, "Hey, maybe you should go down. We should go check out that haunted house, wherever." And I said, "Man, have you listened to a thing I said? What's wrong with you? I'm not going to go to a haunted house. Are you nuts? Listen to what I'm saying." And I realized I just piqued his interest. He wants to get no. So obviously, I don't talk about it very often in that regard. I talk about it to relate it, to let people know that they're not alone, and hopefully help somebody and show people that, guess what, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. And it's crazy to me that we live in a society that has so successfully indoctrinated us to think that talking about this is silly. This is not silly. It's not a silly or crazy or outlandish topic of conversation. It's truth and it's reality, and it really happens to apparently a lot more people than anybody wants to admit. I mean, it seems like almost everyone on here has had an experience with the quote-unquote
it seems like most of the people. It seems like most of the people that are spiritually that are aware of the Mandela effect, for the most part, are empathic. They have some sort of paranormal experience, some sort of spiritual experience. It doesn't matter if they're Jewish or Muslim or Catholic or Protestant, but there's some sort of connection. And
I absolutely agree with that, man.
They're all that way, and they all care. They all genuinely care. Now there might be different levels of caring, but they genuinely care. They genuinely care. And,
you know, I think you're absolutely right on that one too, Ty. Absolutely, man. You know, I've had my fair share of some, you know, I've always had I've always had this deja vu, you know, lots of deja vu, lots of like, you know, just gut feelings and you know, and I've had an enormous amount of paranormal experiences, you know, and of course you talk to people about that, they think you're nuts. So I really just kind of keep it to myself. But, you know, just hearing this connection that everyone else is experiencing, that's interesting for me.
Well, deja vu. It's like I say. Since someone says deja vu is you know, that's commonplace. I guess people are aware of that stuff. But Bouja Day is the worst. It's when you're in the Mandela effect. You go, no way, this has ever happened before. That is wrong. What do you mean? Absolutely not. Going crazy, you know. It's true, because that's what we're doing. We're sitting there pointing out some T on a sign like a lunatic. Like, what is going on? Your wife is trying to put in the car. Get in the car. No. Take a picture of the sign. Just leave it alone. I'll get it tomorrow. No. It will be there. No, it won't change. Maybe it won't be there. I'll get it right now.
Oh my goodness,
man, that's so true. That's so true, man. Oh my God,
I never had that much paranormal stuff happen to me before this, but what gets me is that, you know, my family, the closest people to you, will not even believe me. Like when I told you about this thing with the video that just came out with Mandela affected and our air being nitrogen now instead of oxygen, and it blew me away so bad. Well, I was watching that at 10:30 at night, and I was thinking to myself in my stupor from learning that and then looking it up and finding out it was true, I was thinking to myself, well, dang, there's not anybody that I know who's going to know that like I did, that I can call to even commiserate, except for my oldest daughter, who is a chemist. And I knew she was going to be sleeping, but I was so freaked out. I decided I'm going to call. I'm going to wake her up because she's got to know. She's got to remember this because, man, when, you know, she was a little kid, we would sit at the paper towel restaurants, you know, the paper you could write on with the crayons, drawing all kind of chemical structures and like everything. She knew everything. So I call her.
As a mom of a caring daughter, it sounds great, but I know in reality that call went something like, "Get up, get over here right now."
It was almost that bad. Yeah, it was almost that bad. I said, George, I am so sorry to wake you up. I said, but I am freaking so bad. If I was dead, I'd be rolling over in my grave. I said, I have to ask you a Mandela question. And she's all groggy and upset that I woke her up. And I said, okay. I said, what is the percent of the predominant gas in the air that we're breathing? You know, respiration, atmospheric, whatever. And I was waiting for the answer. And I just knew, I knew she was going to remember like me. And she said, nitrogen. And I died.
Oh, no.
I absolutely died. My heart just sank. And she just said, all she said to me is, can I go back to bed now?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the most terrible thing when that happens. I've been there.
And I think the telltale sign of the Mr. Smith.
You just want to be like, wake up.
Every day with one of my daughters, I'm saying something, doing something like, doesn't that seem weird to you? Whatever. And they just turn and walk. They don't even want to engage a conversation. It's so weird.
I think the telltale sign of the Mr. Smith phenomena is apathy.
Total apathy.
But they think they're getting it. But they think they're genuinely getting it.
Right.
And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not getting it.
I think that is the telltale sign of the Mr. Smith phenomenon, what you just described, is apathy. Can I go to bed now?
Oh yeah.
You see, it's apathy.
Yeah, it's like there's no concern that your family member is still able to maintain their sensical. Sensical is not a word, but nonsensical is. Anyway, their sensical train of thought and their way of talking and speaking. It's not word salad. Yeah. You're just saying, look, I'm really concerned about this. Can you just be here with me and put yourself in my shoes and just listen to what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but they can't even do that. It's like they
actually,
I'm the dad, and I have duct tape, so I can do it. I will do it. I will come and get them. I will strap them down. They will listen.
Oh no, I tried that. It didn't work. Meegs, that video that you made, not your last one, but the one before, that was like the real sad, you're under your desk, whatever. Like, oh my gosh, that like killed me so bad. I was like, I got to find out where you live and find you. But anyway, I used that video. I sent a link because I thought, okay, surely this is going to get through. This will be one of those videos where, mom or ex-husband or kids or whatever, forward it to them. I'm like, if you ever loved the mother you had or wife you had, you listen to this video. Didn't get a response back from anybody. I'm like, really?
Oh, no.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm there with you,
Yep.
Wow. It's just like,
in fact, we eventually.
I sent, it's like, this video is going to get them. This will be the one.
Yeah.
Well, Megs, another one that you're under your sink. Me and Brian and I were talking about that, and I referred to it, not Brian. I referred to it as the Blair Witch Project Megs, because that's what you remind me of. It's so scary. You know what I mean? So scary. It's like,
It's this hat, I think.
But it was
hey guys, Hey guys, I was going to say I need to split out. I need to wake up early in the morning, but hey, we have to do this again. I wanted to thank Brian here for letting me join your show, and all you guys. Ty, wonderful meeting you. April,
nice to meet you. What was your name again?
My name's Troy.
Troy.
Nice to meet you.
Troy.
Well, thanks for coming out. Seriously, thanks for coming out and getting involved. Really.
Absolutely, you guys. It's been amazing, and and I hope to do it again for sure.
Nice to meet you, Troy.
You too, buddy. Troy. Yeah. What's up, Brian?
Can we put it to rest finally? Since your last name is Austin, can we say, or that? Do you remember Sean Austin or Sean Aston? What do you remember?
Now, of course, I remember Sean Austin, and I also remember Tracy Austin as well. I know the Austin very, very, very well. There was never Sean Aston. I guarantee you that.
Yeah,
that's what I remember.
Definitely.
I know.
And you would know.
I gotta check my own ID now to make sure I'm not an Aston.
Oh, that would be an unsavory.
Wouldn't that be freaky?
Yeah, you're all laughing, but every single one of us checked our IDs. You know that every single one of us in the Mandela Effect checked our IDs. We did.
Oh, absolutely. I checked. I checked my birthday, my birth year.
We checked everything. Yeah, we checked everything.
Well, my last name's so screwed up that I'm surprised it didn't screw up more. It's a Finnish name. It's Wurtnen. So it's Wurtnen.
I always pronounce it Wurtanen when I see it in my head.
No, well, there's actually there's I don't know if he's a cousin or not, but he plays in the NHL, the hockey league there, and he calls it Vertanen. So there are some that call it
someone, but you're talking to Megs, who does videos from under her sink, so I'm sure you're okay with her pronouncing her name. But she pronounce her name any way she wants to, and you're cool with it. So.
Yeah. No, but if I were in Finland, it would be Vertanen.
Vertanen.
The W is a V in.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, love you all.
Yeah.
Thanks, Troy.
Take care, man.
Have a great night, Troy. Thank you for joining us.
Come again.
Thank you, guys. God bless you guys.
Thanks, brother. Yeah. God bless you.
But yeah, April, that's so interesting. Just thinking more about family. It's like, before this effect happened, like they would have responded with concern and care.
Oh,
and
yeah.
empathy, stuff before this. But especially, you know, if you're just sending links where other people are backing up what you're saying, you know what I mean?
You would think so. Any normal human
doesn't make sense because people are not having normal human reactions.
Yeah.
Like
I'm saying
avoid
none of it makes any sense, and the divide that's there just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, totally. So it's like it's almost, you know.
I found that once they change, Megs, they don't change back. Yeah. Us personally, they always make that move, like they're making a move on a board or something, that they make that switch from positive to negative, as Tom would say, positive, negative, and they don't come back. And I've tried to be cool about it. I tried to be, you know, suave about it, whatever, you know, to see if they are Mandela affected. And even still, I lose them any which way that I go. It doesn't make any difference. Right. It's almost like, I don't know, April, I don't know if you feel the same way. I feel that spiritually, as I've said to Brian many, many times, with the Mandela effect, this is the only time, almost like a spiritual battle, almost like a demonic thing. It's just weird, where I feel that it knows that we know. Personally, it knows personally that we know, which of course gives birth to the AI idea. But you know, it's one of those things where it's almost like things are juxtaposed against us.
Yes,
which is crazy.
And then
but that's how it's supposed to be in the land of Edom with the Edomites here until the breaker we go free, and then it's called the Basra deliverance. This is how it's supposed to be, and it's tough. Yeah, and it's lonely, but.
It sounds good, but I'm going down aisle 3 looking for Maxwell House or whatever, and I'm thinking, okay, is this, you know what I mean? Is this, and that's what it is. You still have to go through life. You still have to get up. You got to take a shower. You still have to go to work. You still have to do whatever. You go to the store, and you're very aware of this stuff. And it's almost like you can see people in your peripheral. You can see people, you know, either put in your way or taken out of your way.
Yeah.
You know exactly what I mean. And it's hard not to.
Yep.
You know, I'm sure with Megs and you're very much aware, especially Brian, because you guys are so on the internet, and you make your story, you make your point known, you know that you're aware. I think that you might get it 10 times worse than other people get it that aren't so forward with it.
Yeah, but see, I don't care, because I know what I went through in the early days before I knew what this was. And I know that there's a lot of people who don't know what it is yet that are feeling that and going through it. And honest to God, I just don't want them to have to stay in that position any longer than they have to. So, you know, my job is to help them as best I can, because I know if I don't, and I'm in this position and I don't do it, then really, you know, it's going to kind of be our fault, because we were told to make noise by our, you know, multitude of numbers. And if we don't do it, that's as good as rejecting him, and that's going to be on our hands. That's what I believe.
That's what I think too. If we don't use our voices, I mean, my gosh, who else will?
Well, that's what we're supposed to do.
Well, I think there's very few of us, and that's the catalyst that I was talking about before. What's the catalyst? Because there's still a few of us. You say there's a lot. I don't think there's very many. There might be more. Not saying anything.
You know, there's relatively few of us. When you're talking about, you know, 7 or 9 billion people, whatever planet you're from, you know, compared to who are here, I only think there's a few thousand of us, actually. I think there's some people who are here who haven't been triggered yet, that if they get exposed to it, then they'll be affected, that just don't know yet. But I don't think that anybody who's been exposed and hasn't changed yet, they're not going to be triggered, and they're going to be going down the wrong path. But we're geographically dispersed in such a way, and it even says in that, you know, passage that we are going to be making this loud noise by reason of our numbers or something. And if we don't do, you know, I think we're going to be pained or triggered or troubled, Jacob's trouble, to the point where we will each be triggered enough to do what we're supposed to do. And then if we don't do it, it's going to be on our hands. So
no, I know people that have seen the change, and then now they're denouncing the change.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
I know. No, I know what you're saying because my mother's one. My mother is one of those too.
Like
and for a time,
they go back to sleep, right?
Yes.
They go back to sleep.
Yes. So they're not going to get it, and they didn't really see to begin with, because even my mom will still try to say that, and she'll text me or she'll call me when she hears something crazy. And so for months I'll be thinking she gets it, and maybe she is or maybe she isn't. I try to decide, and then she'll say or do something that just totally leads me back to the point where, yeah, she doesn't get it, or she wouldn't be saying this or doing that. So even the people that say they get it, you will know and be able to judge every single one of us by our fruits. And that's what we're saying, what we're doing, how we're acting. We aren't, you've all seen the videos out there of the early people who were doing Mandela videos, and then they turned it to something else, or do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or they're just completely gone. And on the other hand, the people who are meant to get what this is and where we're at, there were people who initially came out saying this can't be a God thing, trying to figure out, it's blowing my mind. No, it can't be a God thing because I don't believe in God, I'm atheist. And they're now making videos about this is a God thing and saying why it is. And I'm like, hallelujah, thank God, somebody's getting it. Because the more and more people that are going to those interdimensionals and ascension and in 5D, here's what really blows me away about people, general people, just talking about people, the way humans are. Everybody, there's so many people who won't even go get gas or stop at a convenience store if there's a foreigner behind the cash register. They're like, oh man, they ain't even speaking English, or they're Middle Eastern, they got whatever, let's go somewhere else at least. There's a lot of people that won't even shop at a store if it's run or managed by somebody from another country. Yet these same people will somehow intuitively understand you're not supposed to play with Ouija boards because bad things will happen. You never hear about good things happening. And it's these same kind of people who won't shop at a store because there's a Middle Eastern there, but they know to stay away from Ouija boards, but yet they're the ones that are listening to all these Barbara Marciniak and the channelers, channel these Pleiadians and the message of the Syrians and all this. Right. And they're listening to these people, and they're not even from another country. They're from another parallel dimension or something, and they're taking in every single word and message that these people and beings are putting out there without giving it a second thought. Now, what kind of sense does that make? What is wrong with people?
It's the wrong spirit. It's the wrong spirit. It's the wrong spirits. And it's going in their eye gate, their ear gate, their mouth gate, whatever. That's what they're doing. They're taking them in, and they're turning people into with false doctrine. That's what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
I had a question.
No, sorry, Brian. Before you start
Brian,
there, I was like, Brian already heard the story, but when I first became awake, like I'm a big music guy. I went to sleep, listened to music all the time, and in the verse in one of the songs, that it wasn't in that song, but it said, "Don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep." It said it twice to me.
Whoa!
Like that is like where I think like to me it's like we're always talking about don't fall asleep. Like
but
with the Mandela Effect.
Again, a good example that became a very personal testament to him. It was personal.
Yeah.
He's just listened to something. It's become personal. And he's probably trying to just get some rest. It's personal.
I hate to keep trying to interrupt, guys. I'm trying to get a word in edgewise about. I know we have a lot of people in here. Real quick, I wanted to ask the panel what you guys think about these so-called UHHF sessions. That a lot of people seem to be doing these days in channeling. Is that necessarily a good or bad thing? What they're doing?
That's the
channeling spirits.
Maybe
channeling
right
spirits.
Attitude behind it, but wrong.
What's the Bible say? No divination, no sorcery, no witchcraft. No, there's a reason. It's for our protection.
Yeah, channeling spirits is easier than Ouija boards or anything like that, or using even divining rods. Channeling spirits is just plain, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You got to be joking. You're allowing some other spirit to come in, you become passive, which of course is what Buddhism and all that other stuff is about. Becoming passive, allowing something to come through you, and then they leave, but they don't really leave. That's the problem. They don't really leave. And as soon as you start listening to the spirit, they got you. Oh, he said tomorrow will be sunny, and it was sunny.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe next time I'll go.
Yeah.
And the next time it says, well, since you told me it was sunny and you were right about the job I got, what should I do now, spirit? And the spirit says,
that's exactly how they get people too. They give them trade-offs. You know, this little thing.
Right. The little things, and then it goes to the next time they talk to the spirit says, leave your wife. What? Leave your wife. Oh, I guess I should leave.
No, well, it comes down to the original thing where the devil wants you to sell your soul for something, and you do it.
You can't
but
really sell
no.
your soul if you don't own it, but
Hear me out. Now these little spirit demons are doing little things like you had said, like tomorrow will be sunny or whatever. Like it's like instead of a big effect like where you're selling your soul, it's all these little things that they're trying to get you to get off the path of the right.
Yeah, because then it looks like the ascension, you are your own God, because I thought it was going to be sunny, and then guess what? I made it sunny. So these people are right. I am my own God and co-creator. I'm going to go listen to more of that. And that's what happens.
Yeah.
Right. And it's sad because exactly I think a lot of these people really do want to help, but they're just in the end, they're just being deceived. There's such deception.
Yeah.
These entities are really good liars.
Used car salesmen are the nicest people in the world. Nicest people in the world. Right. Politicians, I've never seen a bad-looking politician. I mean, my gosh, look, he's such a nice guy. He smells nice. He looks nice. Look at him. He's great.
Right.
Oh, come on. Troy, come on. Look at Donald Trump's hair. I mean, how's that not wrong now? Come on.
Well, he used to have hair, and he's I don't know if you know this, but he's very, very wealthy. You know what I mean? And somehow, it's like Bill Gates. Everybody listens to Bill Gates. Have you seen him? Have you seen Bill Gates? If he didn't have billions and billions of dollars, would anybody listen to him at all? You'd be like, oh, shut up, Bill. And they'd be wanting a paper to throw at him. Bill, cut it out. Right? And no, of course not. Since he's worth billions of dollars, I mean, that's what happened. One of the things that you were just talking about the ascension, you see a lot of people, just the same way I was reminded about these starlit types, these people that get, what do you call it, stars in their eyes, where they think they're going to be a star. They want to be a star. They go and they follow that path. That's a demonic influence. That's what that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And unfortunately, so many people, I mean, you've seen Hollywood Boulevard where they're full of all these young kids trying for their fame and fortune. They believed in that lie. That's who they represent. All these people that believe in the lie, they're going to go to Hollywood to become a star. And that's demonic, that's satanic too, just as much as anything else.
Well, it's not just Hollywood, though. The biggest thing with the end times that people are going to have a problem that's going to keep them blocked, going to keep them weak, and going to keep them susceptible is all the things in the normal everyday world that everybody thinks, right is wrong and wrong is right. Now, for instance, everybody knows, take one thing, pornography. Everybody knows that if you watch pornography, that has a physical, actual change that it can do to your mind, right?
Right.
It can arouse you. It can arouse you. So that's doing something to your mind. Now, what people don't realize is that there are everything around us in this day and age. You're talking TV programming that's showing supernatural things, magic and charmed, and horror movies and slashing. All those things, every single one of them is tied through singularity to another realm. That's where that actually resides. And that is working on people's mind and having physical changes and keeping them blind and keeping them numb, just like everything else. And nobody gets it. And they're all, yeah, let's watch Charmed, let's watch, you know, all these shows that are on.
Right.
You're not supposed to be doing it.
Okay.
Well, the thing is that it's just, God, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
I was going to throw a curveball here. Lately, I've heard not just on that one certain show, but in other shows, if you guys know about Stranger Things,
everybody's talking about that.
The upside down, and I'm hearing a lot about this upside down theory, like it's just in your face all the time.
Right.
So
well, everything is upside down and backwards now.
The reality is that when you see something on TV, what he's trying to say is when you see something on TV, you see something of it in real life. It was never that close association before, and now.
Oh, I know. They're giving hints all over the place, and people don't even catch it.
Except the one hint they're not getting is somebody like Brian, somebody like Meegs, somebody like Seeker. Okay, anytime they show one of us on the show, any show, that you always see them painted in the same corner. Oh, they're crazy. Oh my gosh, they're
I know.
off their
well, you know the movie that's coming out next year.
Something, you know.
You know about the movie that's coming out next year, right?
The Mandela Effect.
The Mandela movie.
Damage control, probably, for the main.
Now you wait to see. If you think we're treated like crazy people now, you wait until that comes out and see how we're treated later. Because if you look at any of the comments on anybody's videos, go down and read the comments. If there's any normal, unaffected person that's reading through the comments like they do to try to see what everybody else's opinion who is on the fence about this, as soon as one person gives a false, oh yeah, it's confused the Monopoly and the Monopoly guy because of the peanut, then you'll see 10 comments from the unaffected people saying, yeah, oh my gosh, thanks for straightening me out. I see how that working. Nobody is going to believe it.
This is the Mr. Smith phenomena that I was talking about. In Jesus' time, you saw, I believe, what would be known as the Mr. Smith phenomena in modern day would be when they went to crucify him, and of course they had to share a choice between him or Barabbas, right? And the crowd in unison said they wanted Jesus, not Barabbas. They wanted to crucify Jesus, not Barabbas. That was a general consensus that they wanted Jesus to be crucified, not Barabbas. They let Barabbas go and kill Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a consensus. And the thing is that you had people, you had the disciples, and you had a number of other people. They were their disciples, but there was a number of other people that believed what Jesus was doing, with believing his teaching. They knew who he was. They knew he was the Messiah. Yeah. And as soon as something happened, they split, and the spiritual channels changed, and everybody became negative, and everybody turned off the whole thing. Everybody did. Everybody just went that way, like a Mr. Smith phenomenon. So I believe the Mandela effect is more spiritual in that regard.
It is. And I believe, I think that what does the Bible say that the biggest sin, the biggest failing and falling is going to be in the very end days? What is the number one thing that the Bible says it's going to be? It says apostasy. And that is exactly what we're seeing. And that is the cause. And that's the way it's going to be. And as foretold.
Okay. No, apostasy is simply a falling away. A falling away from a standing position. That's what apostasy means. Falling away from a standing position.
Yes and no. Yes and no. The closest accurate definition, though, is because you can't fall away if you were a true believer in the first place. It's going to be all this complacency and not believing in the end, and then all the mocking and all the everything that's going to happen to the true believers. Apostasy is the big whole circle.
Apostasy is a term applied to the general teaching that people accept. The apostasy is laid upon the church.
Is the falling away, but not of the true believers, because the true believers can never fall away. But yes, all the masses, the borderline, the lukewarm, the two-faced in faith, all those people are going to suffer from that.
So, not Facebook?
Guys, I'm so sorry. I gotta go home now. They're kicking me out here.
Meegs.
I'm so sorry, guys. I wish I could chat for longer because this is so interesting.
Well, we'll all get together again.
Good to talk to you again, Meegs.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you all again, and definitely April. Let's be friends.
I'm serious. I know. I've been like, I gotta find her. I gotta find her.
I love your channel too.
I know. You're like, yeah, big.
You're very,
you're awesome. You're awesome.
Really, succinct.
We're glad to have her on, and you too.
Really good points. So, anyway, thanks so much, guys.
Take care.
Thanks, Brian, for having us on, and God bless y'all. Let's keep hanging in there, okay?
Yeah.
All right, Meegs. We'll see you next week.
God bless, Meegs.
Hey, get some rest. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
She's great, isn't she?
She's awesome.
She is awesome.
Good.
Right. No, let's talk about her. No, she's really good. And we like Megs a lot. We really do like Megs.
We had some questions in the chat
about everything.
Sorry, guys. Alice Taylor mentioned, can you ask how many people have cancer themselves or know people with cancer? My world of friends and family are so many with cancer right now. It's baffling. Anyone know anyone with cancer? Let's pray for them.
Yeah, my father was just diagnosed with lung cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a cousin that I told had really bad cancer. I don't think there's anything that.
Yeah, I myself had glaucoma in my right eye, and I lost almost all my vision in my right eye.
And also my son's wife, my oldest son's wife, had just finished a treatment of cancer that she had a mastectomy, and things were well now. She's finished with the treatment and back to work. But hopefully everything's good for her. But that was a terrible time for them. But so cancer, yes, yeah, here too.
Melissa wanted to tell me Regato Bonner's in the house. Hey, brother, how you doing? The chat's been pretty lively. I'll tell you.
I don't see it. We don't see it.
Well,
I just wanted to go on about my my dad's got cancer for the last 4 years, and now he's found out today that he's got spots on his kidneys, and my mom's got glaucoma in both of her eyes, and my dog he's got cancer too. So
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Sorry, Regato.
It's just piles up.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and I tell people, and I don't mean to sound insincere. I really don't. Please don't take it this way. But I tell people, and I tell people, if you're born, you're going to die. For us, just to let us know, we're all shocked when we come. We could die at any time. Life is a vapor, that. But the idea here is, in 50 years, according to our flesh, in 50 years, none of us are going to be here. Maybe a little bit longer because some of us are younger, but by and large, in 50 years, none of us are going to be here. In 100 years, no one's going to remember us. If you don't believe that, why don't you let me know? If you could, guys, let me ask, who knows Thomas Jefferson's wife? What's his kid's name? How about his dog? Do you know where he lived? What's his address? What's his favorite food? And he's someone famous, and that's only been a couple hundred years. So life, try to make the best of it you can. Do what's important, because
it's not about the historical things. It's about the personal family things that matter.
Even the personal family things, as we care about our kids. Like I
can tell you what my grandfather's dog was.
Right, of course. But how far back can we go? We can go back to our mother, our father, great grandparents. What about their grandparents? We're not going too far back. So the point is that the spiritual things should be considered to be more important, even though we care about our family, we care about our kids, of course. But in reality, and eternity-wise, what's important is eternity. What's important is the afterlife.
No. Well, we're all gonna die, and that's when we're born at 1 second old, we're gonna die.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's just.
You've
hard
been through a lot. You've been through a lot, and I can feel for you.
Yeah.
Go through that stuff, and it's hard to go through, and it's a part of life. I understand that because I've went to school. I've learned about psychologies. I've learned about a lot of stuff in life, and it's just, I guess I just haven't experienced it with my own parents yet, and it's getting to that point where it's gonna happen now, and it's hard.
I can't tell you how hard I feel very, very bad for you that you're going through that, and especially it's a struggle because you feel like you're all alone at times. That's very common, and everybody's different. Everybody's different. When my brother passed away 20 years ago, Seeker, he died. He committed suicide 20 years ago, back in '99. So what is it, 17, 18 years ago?
I'm sorry, buddy.
Well, I think it's just hard, he's saying, because all of us are going through overwhelming, incredible, things get unbearable, and then it's one after another, and he's, been through attacks, and he's doing everything right, and he's trying to be good and do what he should, and it's just a tough time for a lot of us, and it's just hard. It's just a really hard time.
Right. And so what I'm trying to say is, if you need the help, if you need someone to talk to, if you need anything, you got to ask. You know what I mean?
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And and I'm sorry about your brother.
Yeah, it's fine. It was a long time ago. I did. Unfortunately, I came across one of his old girlfriends online on like a Facebook thing, and it had been at the time. It was like 15 years, and I said, "Oh, I can't believe. Hey, how you doing? Blah 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 blah. I haven't seen you. And then she asked where my brother was, and I had to tell her, and she was so sad. She was so upset, and I had to point out that she was trying to console me. And I said, I have known about him dying 15 years. You just found out 15 minutes ago. So I'm sorry for you. For 15 years, she didn't know. And she was heartbroken. She just didn't know. So it's one of those, it's just one of those things. And I thought that I handled it just fine in the beginning, but as time went on, it just got harder and harder to accept, harder and harder to explain, harder and harder to relate. It's difficult. Death is different for everybody.
Yeah, it's just funny. Like, I lost one grandparent, and then I lost like another grandparent, say 5 years after, and then another one 5 years after, and it just seems like right now everything is all at the same time. It's just
yeah.
And I'm sorry to hear that. Really sorry to hear that. And like I said, don't. The worst thing you could do. The worst thing you could do, and I'm telling you, just from personal experience, just for me, it might not be the same for you, but just for me, the worst thing I did is not go to counseling, not talk to someone, and it took me twice as long, 3 times as long to get through it on my own as it would have been talking to someone the whole time. Really, that's just me. That's just me. Because guys, I'm a guy. And guys are stupid. They don't want to get help. They don't want to talk. The guys are just that way. A lot of guys are that way. Not all guys, but I happen to be stupid. I happen to be because I know everything. Don't tell me nothing. I know it.
No, but that's my degree. I'm a youth counselor, and
physician heal thyself. So there you go. So the thing is that your main problem will probably be, how do you feel? You won't know how you feel. Trying to figure out how you feel instead of reading it from a book, what is really going on. And that would probably be most difficult for you. But you work through it and you'll be okay. God doesn't give you more than you can handle.
We'll say prayers for you, Rigato.
I got God, and You know, he'll get me through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Of course. And I'm happy that you shared that with us, because even that is difficult for some people, really.
I lost my grandmother last year, September 3rd, and Teresa lost her grandmother on a September 3rd, not the same year, but that's actually how me and her identify ourselves in case we shift again. We ask each other, your grandmother die, and if she says September 4th or something different than September 3rd, then we know something's wrong.
Right, sure, that's right. I remember when you guys figured that out. That was great. That was great. You know, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time and talking with us, with me, with Brian, with Megs. With that, I think it was great, especially that new guy. What was his name? Troy. Troy was really Troy Austin was really something. I was very surprised. What do you think, Seeker?
I'm glad he came out.
Yeah, and he came out and he came across very well. I was surprised. Yeah. Brian's been awfully quiet today, but you know.
Yeah, I've been trying. I kept getting cut off. There was a lot of people in the chat and everything.
You got the volume control. You can silence us at any time, Brian. You can just click us off just like that and have the whole floor.
Brian's like that every week. He lets us talk, and he's silent most of the time. And I think he should jump in there more and more. You know.
Right. Have you ever seen that Superman thing? What is that? The Phantom Zone, right? Brian has the buttons to put us in the Phantom Zone where we're like this. We're like, hey, help us, right? And he's just talking away like, so no one wants to talk. I'll talk, no problem. You know.
All right, I was going to try to have Meegs sing that song, Nothing's Going to Stop Us Now, but we may have to hold that for next week.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have to go myself. So I'm going to sign off, but I'll come back on whatever time.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right.
Sounds good.
So good to meet whoever I didn't meet before and talk to you. And Brian, you know, I'll be in touch and I'll be talking to you at some point soon.
Hopefully it won't be another.
It was great having you. I have a special gift for you too.
Another 8 months. Hopefully it's not another 8 months. That would be good.
No, it won't be. I'm good now. You know, as good can be anyway. So yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, will you come on next
week? Later.
My heart goes out to you, April.
Oh, you two are God. I love your channel. Love your videos. You're seriously an idol for like every good Christian, the way we should be right now. I'm just saying, you're a big inspiration. So keep doing what you're doing. You know you're doing right. So do it.
God bless you.
You too. Amen. I'll talk to you guys later.
Good night, Changing Matrix. Bye. Good having you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. So we're going to wrap it up here. Any closing comments? Was anybody amazed? I mean, at the information that was presented?
Oh, it was a good night. Like lots of good topics and lots of good conversations, and just, you know, Brian, I thank you for every week for putting this on, because it's awesome to get this out with the ME, and you know.
Yeah, I figured it keeps a lot of us out of trouble and it gives us something to look forward to every Friday. So.
Oh, is that what this does? It keeps us out of trouble now. Okay, well, yeah, that's good. Go public, Tyler. This is the what to do. Keeps you out of trouble.
You want to keep you out of trouble? You don't watch our show.
Yeah, go on YouTube. It's the best. But I really do appreciate you guys taking the time. I do appreciate you guys taking the time. What's that?
No, I said we could probably save a few DUIs out there.
Well, for Tom, who likes to watch video apparently as he's driving, yeah, that would be something. But I really do appreciate you guys taking the time out, and the audience and their questions were really good tonight. So that was great. That was good. Really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Can I close it with a prayer?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go right ahead, man. Go ahead.
I just want to thank God for everything that we have, for our food, for our families, and hopefully for the health of everyone. And health of the world, and pray for the people that are suffering. And God bless everyone.
I agree. I agree. All right, guys. You guys have a great night, and I will talk to you again next time we get a chance. And Brian, anything else?
Yeah, Ty, I always enjoy having you on, and you too, Corey. You guys are my anchors, so I definitely appreciate you taking the time to help me out live sessions. So
yeah,
I appreciate you.
That's wonderful. Everything's just wonderful anytime, and great guests, great topics, great everything.
We'll try to come up
with a benefit and help some people in the
audience,
of course.
Wait, what did you say, Ty? Sorry. You there?
I am. Can you? Were you talking to me?
Yeah. You were talking and I was talking.
You're breaking up a little bit. That's what I said.
I
couldn't hear you because.
We'll try to figure out some different subject matter to bring up next week.
Of course.
If you have any suggestions, let me know, guys. Okay.
Of course. Yeah, that sounds great, and I will talk to you again. Have a good night.
Okay. Good night, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
Love you. Good night.